Game Time again with Doc, Lurch, and Greg from Eclectic Endeavors. Just finishing getting everything set up. There's a couple things I have to start after we actually connect, so let me open up my chat window. Pop out. I usually open that afterwards. And just stretch that out a little bit. There we go. And we're going to do a quick sound check here. So let's see. Waiting, it still says hosting, so it hasn't quite updated on the website yet. Hold on, let me close this chat window and hit refresh. Refresh.
Okay, now it says live online.
Right. I just needed to refresh my thing and then hit my chat pop up now because I refreshed it. I'll give us the new chat pop up. And let's go ahead and do a sound check. Check 1 2. Check 1 2. Let's go ahead and do a sound check. Check 1 2.
Checkity check check.
Let's go ahead and do a sound check. Check 1 2.
Checkity
Check
check check.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Checkity
Check
check check.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
We all came through. It sounded like one heck of a medley there. Okay. All right. Well, this is Game Time with Doc, Lurch, and Greg. For those who don't know, we're part of the board of directors for Eclectic Endeavors, the people that put on the Gaming Arts Media Entertainment Expo, the Picnic at the End of the Universe, the game meetup at the Old Fast Brewing Company, and various other things throughout the years to promote the general nerdy culture and the education behind it throughout the Springfield and Ozark area. I am Doc. I am Director of Cross Promotions. Right below me, you'll see Greg Pullman. He is our Director of Tabletop Gaming. And
Hello, everyone.
beneath him, we've got Lurch, who's our current chairman this year and has over 10 years as our Director of Electronic Gaming. So he's the guy to go to when you want to know about anything having to do with a console, let me tell you. Anyway, we're going to be going through different topics in the Nerdosphere. We're here from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. every Wednesday. Now, Greg is not with us the third Wednesday of every month as he's at Hold Fast Brewing Company live for their game day. So you can go out and actually meet up with Greg, play some games. He usually has some easy, quick starter games to get you, feet wet and everything. And then maybe, something a little bit more complex afterwards if you're interested. Plus, they do puzzle night that night, so you can always do the puzzle.
Yeah, puzzle nights are a blast.
Yeah, so
a lot of good friendly competition there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, what nerd doesn't like any kind of competition except plain old sports? We're just not that big into that.
I only compete against myself.
Yes, some of us are into sports, but a lot of us would rather compete in a nice competitive card game or video game, arena tournament battle, blitzkrieg kind of winner take all, king of the hill kind of thing or something. But we also like good cooperative games and everything else. So anyway, we're going to get right into it. We're going to start as usual with Philip because he usually has the most topics here pre-planned and ready to go. So, and we're starting with House Marquee. So go ahead, Philip.
Yeah, so it's just got announced that PlayStation Studios has purchased House Marquee, which they've been which makes a lot of sense. House Marquee has been working on almost their entire library of games they've been putting out for the last 15 or so years have been PlayStation exclusive, with the exception of, I think, one game that they worked with Ubisoft on that was multi-platform. Their most recent game was Returnal, which was that hit PS5 game that kind of a mixture of arcadey, fast-paced action with some horror and storyline stuff with beautiful graphics and a high difficulty level. It's a roguelike type of game. So yeah, the PlayStation has officially purchased them, and they put out this announcement of welcoming him to the PlayStation family.
So welcome to the fold.
It was something that was kind of,
Yeah.
welcome to the fold.
Nice.
So
I thought I recognized the name. I thought I recognized the name Returnal. I remember you bringing that up on one of the previous live streams. That one looked really interesting.
Yeah,
He's actually talked about it a couple of times. Not in detail, not in great detail yet, but yeah, that's one of the ones that he's been going through and enjoying it a lot, from what I understand.
Yeah, not a lot to go on until there's a full release, I guess.
It's the full game is out. Returnal is out. It came out. I don't remember the exact release date now. A little over a month ago, I think. Maybe 2 months ago.
I think you're about a month.
It's a very difficult game. It's very challenging. And the way it's designed, there's no continues. You die and you go back to the beginning of the game, and then there are some carryover things from what you did before. Like after you beat a boss, you don't have to fight that boss anymore. You can beating that boss gives you like a key or something that gives you the ability to move on to the next area. But when you die, you do have to start back at their same original starting place, and you have to find your way to the shortcut that takes you to the next biome, the next area of the game. But you don't have to refight the boss. And it's up to you as a player if you want to stick around in that first zone and fight everything again and try to level up and get better gear before you move into the next zone, because things do get progressively more challenging, even though it's already hard. And there's no save points for a run, you kind of have to sit down and be like, okay, I'm going to play this for 2 hours, basically straight at a time. It's not good for small piecemeal. You're not going to sit down for 20 minutes on it, because if you play it for 20 minutes,
you're going to have to start.
You just have to leave it paused. You can put your PlayStation on rest mode, but then if you get an update, the update will close the game, and then you have to you start off like you're respawning again from the beginning.
Or recently, power outages.
Yes. So it's pretty brutal in that regard, but it is an insane amount of fun, and they managed to take the third-person over-the-shoulder shooter experience and make it very arcadey. It's a roguelike game that has a lot of arcade elements to it that you really feel, and that's what they're known for. Housemarque is known for making arcade-style games. They made the Super Stardust games. You can see on here, Super Stardust HD, Super Stardust Portable, or whatever they called the PSP one, Dead Nation. They're mostly known for making those, but I think it was in 2017, 2018, they said something to the effect of the arcade genre of games for home consoles is pretty much dead. They get high critical acclaim, and their fans highly praise their work, but the sales weren't quite there for what they were making. So they were like, we got to change gears, we got to change what we're doing a little bit, and that's when they made Returnal. So they're still keeping that really fast-paced bullet hell, dodging everything all at once and reacting really fast mechanic with the loop, but with a story that's mysterious and more engaging, and it's doing really well. It's selling. I don't remember what the numbers are, but it's doing really well in sales, and it's made PlayStation happy enough to buy them up as a company, which is I think that's really promising for what else Housemarque's going to do. Something that was really go ahead.
Well, I gotta say, I don't recognize the name Housemarque, but I definitely recognize the little gear symbol. And I've seen that on a few games, which means I've played a few of the games, just not realizing it was them working on them. And the added tension of not getting a true save ability, whew, for hardcore gamers, I could see that as crack cocaine, man.
Yeah. So yeah, it is intense. Now, other news that kind of something else that leaked because of the person who's responsible for uploading this post originally accidentally uploaded the wrong artwork, and they uploaded an artwork that showed welcome to the family for Blue Point Studios. which is a different
Hmm.
company that has been rumored that they would purchase, but they haven't officially purchased them yet. Yeah.
Whoops.
Whoopsie.
But it's in the works.
Now people, yeah, it's in the works, but it hasn't quite happened yet.
Or rumored to be in the works is what we should say. Nothing has been
Right.
confirmed, but
They've been going out for a while, but they haven't announced a date yet.
that's right. Yeah, he hasn't actually bought the ring, but he's been practicing going down on one knee.
They have a close relation. Blue Point has had a close relation. Blue Point Games. They've had a close relationship with the PlayStation franchise all the way back to PlayStation 3 era. They worked on the God of War collection, which is a remaster of the first couple of games. They worked on the Ico and Shadow of the Colossus collection. They do a lot of ports.
Nice.
They do a lot of ports. They did the Ico and Shadow of the Colossus collection.
God of War was huge.
They did the Metal Gear Solid HD collection on the 360 version.
We've talked about Metal Gear before. Yeah, that's another huge franchise.
They did the handheld PlayStation Vita version of PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale, which I really enjoyed that game. I don't know why it's not more popular. They did ports for Vita. They did the Xbox 360 port. Okay, so they've done a little bit of non-PlayStation stuff, but they also worked on Titanfall for the Xbox 360, which was an Xbox One game originally. They worked on the Nathan Drake collection, Uncharted, for PS4, where they put like the first 3 games of Uncharted on the PS4. They did Gravity Rush Remastered on PS4, Shadow of the Colossus again, now on PS4. And then more recently, in 2020, they put out Demon's Souls on PlayStation 5.
Nice.
So Blue Point Games has a reputation for doing high quality. These are well regarded ports, generally speaking, across many, 14 years of putting out ports, most of which are PlayStation games. So they've had a good, strong relationship with a couple of exceptions that were worked on for Xbox 360. So it's been rumored that they were going to be buying Blue Point. Now there's also a rumor that they're buying Blue Point and that Blue Point is working on a Metal Gear Solid remake. That's all speculation based on a variety of different pieces of things that have leaked out. So I'm not going to report on that. But the idea of them purchasing Blue Point Games looks pretty solid considering the artwork that was accidentally uploaded by PlayStation for a short while before they pulled it down to upload this artwork for Housemarque.
So, ears to the ground. Ears to the ground, because it sounds like he's been courting her for a while. He might have already asked her father for permission. He just hasn't asked her yet, or at least she hasn't given an answer. She hasn't given an answer. He might have asked, but they could be in negotiation of the bridal fee.
Well,
as it were.
I think if they're gonna go far enough, to actually make the artwork for an announcement, my guess is they've already got the answer of yes. They are just waiting to make it a public announcement.
and they may not have wanted to take away from the announcement for Housemarque. Yeah. They may have wanted to stagger it a little bit and just sent the wrong one out too early. So they could just be nailing down the final details that have all been signed and dotted and crossed and everything. They've sacrificed the chicken. They've sacrificed the virgin. They've done all of the preliminaries in a good wedding, and now the marriage is coming to fruition. Okay, well that's some interesting information, especially for us PlayStation people like me, who far prefer the PlayStation console over any of our other consoles.
Now I do have all 3 of my story pieces today are different consoles. I've got Xbox and Nintendo coming up later.
Hey, you like to mix up, which is
good.
That's exactly why I tell everybody to go to you about consoles, because you don't just focus on one. You have some information on all of them. We're going to move to Greg next. It looks like his first story is the Dungeon Scrawler. So go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, I found this article and on Dicebreakers, and have already looked at the pre-order on the official D&D website, or rather the WizKids sub-site. It's a kids D&D adaptation that looks like a series of maze drawing games where you try to maximize your, I guess, loot and experience by drawing your entrance and escape from the maze to hit as many monsters and artifacts and loot as possible. It's the art style indicates that it's clearly aimed towards a younger market, which I'm excited about because we always need new blood in the hobby. And as cumbersome as D&D can be, even the more recent editions, I recently heard somebody who was into Vampire the Masquerade as a kid compare D&D to uh, fantasy uh, fantasy gaming with the homeworks with math homework snuck in.
That's right.
Yeah.
Especially old
It
school.
looks like this one. Oh yeah, I've tried and I still don't know how THACO works. But
I know how it works, but then I grew up on THACO. Those who didn't grow up on THACO, it's just so counterintuitive. It just hurts their brain.
yeah, if you do anything often enough, you will eventually get good at it. But
right.
there are other options, and this one looks like a good introductory one. There's a series of what appears to be, I can't tell if they are. It says a marker, so I'm guessing that these are dry erase boards, laminated boards that kids can go through with a marker and mark their trail. Like I said, maximizing how many monsters they defeat and how much loot they gain. There's also on the pre-order site, there's an image where you can barely make out different character class cards. I'm looking at cleric, barbarian, ranger, rogue, and I'm not wizard. Each of which have different abilities that somehow make it easier to navigate the maze or collect certain resources. Let me find it. The game's character roster is based on a collection of classic D&D classes, such as the Rogue, who has the ability to collect treasure just by touching it, whereas normally, apparently, you have to circle the item in order to claim it. The Cleric, who can collect artifact fragment stones in any order, whereas non-clerics have to collect the artifact items in a specific order in order to get points credit for them. And there's no video demos that I can find, so it's not clear exactly how these mechanics influence the actual gameplay. But it's interesting that they gave each class a little bit of an angle towards a specific theme, and that alone would give prospective players, prospective kids, an incentive to play a certain way and read the text and go, oh, this is who I'm playing. I need to go this way. I need to plan for this kind of a strategy. And whether they understand the concept or not, they're already thinking in terms of how do I maximize the utility of what I'm good at. And if this leads into a greater appreciation for full-on role-playing games, they'll bring that knowledge and that attitude into the greater scheme of things and go, okay, I'm a cleric. I kind of know what my role in the party is.
They'll understand the classic archetypes.
Yeah.
While still having the freedom to make the character their own, they'll understand where that character concept is coming from in a broad sense so that they know at least what the expectations of the other players should be at the table in a cooperative setting like this. Because when
exactly,
you and me both, Greg, we know because we've introduced a lot of new players to RPGs that when they first sit down at the table, no matter how much fantasy they might have read, they can actually, their eyes glaze over, they get completely like this clueless look on their face when you start trying to explain the difference between like a rogue and a ranger. You know?
Yeah, without necessarily having to understand all the mechanics and have read the player's handbook cover to cover, they will understand that different classes are good at different things. And they can all still any of them can do everything, but some of them are just a little better at some things than others, and that'll inform their ability to come together and be like, oh, I really thought the wizard was a lot of fun. I'd like to play a wizard. Oh, I'll be the fighter and such and so forth. It
makes a more cohesive team
the,
and makes an easier startup for everybody.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's already on pre-order on the WizKids website. It's retailing for $25. It appears to have 10 different maps, and I'm hoping those are dual-sided. I can't see any practical reason why they wouldn't be. Give twice as much utility to an already decent-looking game.
2, 3, 4, 5.
That's really cool. I would definitely be the wizard. No one's surprised by that, though.
Yeah, I'd be some kind of spellcaster. Yeah, 10 maps it looks like, and then if you double-sided, that makes 20. Nice. We'll have to keep an eye out for that. I also love the very kid-friendly anime-style artwork for the characters. That's pretty. That's going to draw kids in. This kind of artwork.
It conveys some character. I also love that the characters are wielding writing implements, except for the dwarf fighter who's wielding a tower shield eraser.
Yeah, they're all using writing and or drawing instruments. You know, markers and pencils and paintbrushes and all that.
Very on brand. And those illustrations reflect what's on the character cards on the pre-order website. So that's a really cute touch.
Nice. Yeah, that's nice, and that appeals to the younger generation, which is always good because I try to run, my kids level games at game when we do have the convention and stuff, but it's always nice to find other ways to get the kids more interested in D&D. They've got D&D coloring books out there, D&D storybooks, and starting to come out with cutesy games like this to get people started is another way to do that in a kid-friendly manner.
Yeah,
and I love it.
I just realized on the pre-order site, the cover of the box says the real-time dungeon racing game. So it looks like
they got to draw it fast against each other.
You're racing against the clock. You're trying to get as much stuff as you can, but also hit the exit before the other players do. So that could inform how easy it is for certain classes. Like, it takes less time for the rogue to just draw a line and keep going through the loot that they grab, as opposed to a non-rogue that has to actually circle it and then keep going.
And then people have to decide, like, am I going to the exit right away? Or if I'm going to try to get that one more piece of treasure, because when we go back and we calculate the value of the treasure, who won? I assume.
Yeah. And nothing in the article alludes to this specifically, but I like to think this is one of those games where once you start and once you pick where the dungeon begins, where you enter, you cannot pick up your pen until you are at the end. So if you want to go back and claim something, you either are out of luck or you have to actually backtrack your pen, mark the thing, and then find where you were and keep going from there.
Yeah, I think it would be a no-lift pin thing, although depending on how young the players are, you can't always enforce that. So that just kind of depends.
But that's also teaching mapping skills and how to plan your route, because that's like anybody who's done a classic dungeon delve knows that's basically how you plan your delve. You figure out, you start from where the opening gate is and go from there and just keep track of where you've been.
Right. All right.
That way you can minimize your backtracking.
That would definitely be one to watch.
Yeah.
And again, like I said, I've already done my Kickstarter for the year, but man, you guys keep tempting me with great Kickstarters that I might want to make an exception and go ahead and back another one. Okay, let's see. My turn. All right. Now, as some of you may or may not know, I read a lot of Kindle Unlimited books, especially because of my eyesight. But also for $10 a month, you get up to 10 books out at a time in the Kindle Unlimited library. So you can constantly have books available. And it syncs between your different devices. So if I stop on like page 86 on my tablet and switch to my phone, I can sync up and it'll start on that page that I left off at. So I don't have to worry about bookmarks or any of that kind of stuff. As long as I have internet access, it'll automatically sync everything up. So, and anyway, I read a lot of genre of books. It's called lit RPG, which is where, people from the real world end up going into a fantasy world, kind of like Ready Player One. Um, and often there's like stats involved, which is why it's a lit RPG, is because in the game you improve yourself, and there actually is experience and stats that you can bring up your character sheet in the game, like you're in a computer game or like you're playing a tabletop role-playing game. Uh, and even some of the characters in the world might be able to do the same thing depending on how they interpret it. Well, one of my favorite authors in that genre, Michael Chatfield, has been working on a series of books called The Ten Realms, and he just like a week ago released the next book in the Ten Realms series, which is the Seventh Realm Part One. Now he had the first realm was called the 2 Week Curse. Now that was the first book, and all of them up until like the sixth realm had one book apiece. Sixth realm had two books, and the seventh realm looks like it's going to have at least two books. But they just released the seventh realm part one, and it's really interesting because the two main protagonists in the series are ex Marine Special Forces guys. Just to give a basic synopsis of how they enter into the world, is there's this weird thing that's happened that hits people on Earth called the 2 Week Curse, and nobody knows where it comes from or anything. But once you get it, 2 weeks from the day you get it, you're going to disappear, and they don't know why. What's going on? Nothing. But you start to develop like stats. You can actually improve yourself using stats, and start using some like even magic type abilities. And so this one special forces guy finds that he's got the 2 Week Curse, and he gets like his he gets handicapped. I don't remember what the handicap is. It's been so many books now, but I think his leg gets severely damaged. But he works and works to basically get his leg repaired before he disappears, because they have no idea if they just die, what happens. But he finds that this other member of his original group they become for hire mercenaries at the end of their military tours. His other friend also has the 2 Week Curse, so they're going to go together, and they they start building these pods to basically lock themselves into, so that when they disappear, hopefully they can take the pod with them and all the gear they store in their pod. And they've got certain basics like weapons and survival rations and canteens and all that kind of stuff. And then they appear in the first realm of this world, and start going to town. But they're using their military training to kind of adapt the world to their whims. So they're approaching everything from like their military training standpoint. And the main character is a combat medic. So when he goes to do healing, he approaches it like a medic would. So like he's scanning people, and he's developing IVs. He's doing all these things to fix people, and not charging them an arm and a leg to do it. Where the main healing houses in the world, they like have an iron grip on healing and charge people at the nose for healing. He's like charging like 2 coppers or whatever to heal people. And his buddy, which is Rugrat, is his call sign. it's Eric and Rugrat are the two characters, and Rugrat is basically a special forces sniper and me- field mechanic. So he gets into like learning how to do the smithing and making different metallurgy stuff, and he starts advancing smithing techniques because of their military training. Where Eric is advancing things like alchemy and potion making and stuff, and blending disciplines because in this world, everybody guards their own discipline and never shares with anybody. So, like, alchemists don't talk to the healers; they just sell alchemy products to the healers, but they don't ever teach a healer how to make an alchemy product. You know, so there's no cross skills where the military, especially the special forces branches, they teach you to become jack of all trades. You know, you try to learn as many skills as possible and find the ones that synergize together. And so that's how they're approaching everything. And they totally take the world by storm. And you have to get up to at least level 10 before you can transfer to the second realm, and level 20 to the third realm, and so on. So they have to go up 10 levels before they're able to even access the next realm. And then they have to, get to what they call a teleportation totem and do that. So it's a really intense series. I think you love it, Greg, because you love RPGs and different takes on things. Um, and when you reach certain levels of a skill, uh, like expert rank and journeyman and stuff, you also sometimes get a bonus. Uh, Stuff like you get a free recipe in alchemy if you reach your journeyman level. Uh,
Yep.
Anybody who reaches like their master level, I think it is, gets their book that basically automatically stores all of their recipes in it for that skill. Um, Eric, the main character, learns a skill in alchemy called reverse alchemy, where he can just nibble on an ingredient and has a chance to possibly learn what the ingredient will do, and thus learn different ways to combine different ingredients into different kinds of concoctions without having a starting recipe to work with. Um, and then there's two other things that is involved with the characters because they have what they call body cultivation and mana cultivation. In body cultivation, basically, they're trying to imbue their body with the elemental magic uh, impurities of the world so that they become more attuned to one of the basic elements: air, earth, fire, water, metal, you know, uh, and you slowly go through a tempering process. And when you finish these tempering process stages, you enter states called like body of stone, body of iron, body of sky iron, body of diamond. Through there, and you get all kinds of benefits and stat boost. That in later levels, it's actually more important to do the cultivation than it is to do the leveling for actual power upgrades, because the cultivation gives you huge jumps that are, if anything, magnified by your level. And then in the mana cultivation, it's the same thing. Turns out that you have these mana gates in your body, these basically like the chakra points in our own metaphysics. And if you can open all your mana gates, then you've given yourself more access to mana. And then once you've opened all your mana gates, then you start refining the mana that's stored in your body into first a gas core, then a liquid core, then a solid core, and so on, so that you're better able to process mana and your body starts actually absorbing mana at faster rates. And of course, as you work your way up in the different realms, each higher realm is more mana rich. Like the first realm is very mana weak. There's no actual ley lines that anybody has seen. The mana is very few and far between. The monsters are weaker. Occasionally, a big monster will show up, but they're not quite sure how they get there. Dungeons are a thing, and if you can take a dungeon core and then claim it, because you get the title Dungeon Master, which the two characters end up getting something. They can actually take control of a dungeon and then make it theirs, and then start using it for their own purposes. I don't want to spoil the rest of the book in case anybody wants to read the book, but it's up to now. This makes
8 books
eight
total.
books. 8 books already out in total, and he's already working on the 9th and 10th books, and obviously he's going to go. The plan looks like he's going to go to at least 10 realms in his books, so that means that there's at least 3 more books, if not more.
Yeah,
there's at
I was
least
taking
4
a
more
quick
books.
look. I was looking it up because there's like I think one of the realms took a couple of books and everything.
6, yeah.
Yeah, and I was wanting to say that I'm looking at the details of the first book, the 2-week curse,
Yes.
and it has 1,311 ratings and 4.5 stars on Amazon. So
yeah, it's
that
an
sounds
amazing
really
series.
promising.
Yeah, Chatfield is a great author, and he's got a few series that I like, but that's probably my favorite of his. See if there's another one that I can see that I'm big into. The Immortalia one is also a lit RPG. But the 10 Realms, I like this one so much that when I got the notice that this one was out, and I got it kind of late, I stopped in the middle of reading the book, put it on hold, and went to this. Because I've been waiting for this to come out. So I'm going to do this and then go back to the other book I was reading. And so... Go ahead.
I'm looking at the covers. They all look like alchemy circles of some kind or another. Are those plot relevant, or are they just fun designs that the creator or the illustrator came up with?
Well, in a way, they're both, because they don't actually detail what each of them is. But in the books, there's like 3 kinds of magic use. There's spell magic, where you cast a spell that's usually basically a preset recipe for a magical thing. There's a true mage, which basically just manipulates the mana and builds a spell effect on the fly. And then there's people called foundation masters, and they etch spells into different things, and that's what these symbols would be kind of representative of. So, like, for instance, they create machine guns in the world that are powered by magic, and you could put like they'll put a formation in the barrel of the gun to keep it from overheating, and another formation to make it shoot at a faster rate of fire, and so on and so forth. So it would add, but yet again, like I said before, people in the different disciplines don't share as much. So a smith might not know more than 1 or 2 formations himself. He just does the smithing. Then he takes it to a formation master to put the formations on a weapon. And a formation master, comes and he does formations for all the other crafts, because they don't learn formations, or if they do, they learn a couple of the really simple beginner formations, because everybody so tightly guards their secrets, where these guys, thinking like military special forces guys do, or like bards or rogues do, believe that you can dip in any skill set you want and make it work for you. And so they're combining skills, and so the community they end up building is more powerful because they freely share information between the different skills within the community. And I don't want to go too much, like I said, because I don't want to spoil it. I've already kind of given some light spoiler there, but nothing that really is going to ruin the book or books.
Sure.
Sounds really cool.
And it's good, and it's available on Kindle Unlimited, which means if you pay your $10 a month for Kindle Unlimited and read as prolifically as I do, I read about a book a day. Sometimes, depending on how much time I have to read with everything else going on. So right now, it's taking me about 3 days to finish a book just because of all the other projects I give myself. But that still means I'm knocking down 10 to 12 books a month for $10. That's nothing, you know.
Yeah.
And it's part of my Amazon Prime too, and it's great. And you can link it to Audible and get them an audiobook if you're having trouble. Like when I was partially blind, Audible was something I was my go-to thing. When I used to drive truck, I used to listen to Audible books all the time. So that's a possibility. Like you're working or something, you can have an
Yeah.
audiobook running in the background or a podcast. Uh, and this is a great way to do it. It's also Kindle Unlimited is a great way to get some of your periodicals that people just don't necessarily get in print anymore, like Time and Newsweek and Wall Street Journal and stuff like that, if you're into those kind of things. Or like you can get Kindle versions of like Dragon Magazine and stuff like that. I believe. I don't know. I know you can get them if you're a member of D&D Beyond. You can access them. That's how I get mine. But anyway, so that's my book recommendation. I haven't done a book recommendation in a while since like the first or second week of the show. But this one had me so excited I had to share it. There's so many great authors that come out. Now, the one thing I'll warn people about is a lot of these authors are basically self-published through Amazon, which means you're going to have a lot of editing errors in the books because a lot of these authors cannot necessarily afford, at least especially in their beginning offerings, or they believe they can't afford to hire a separate editor. You can actually afford it because you can find editors that work at all different prices. Me and Allison will work for a really dirt cheap price for first time clients on editing. But a lot of people don't believe they can afford an editor and think they can do it themselves. And the trouble is, you as a writer, when you read your own work, you self edit in your brain, so
Oh my gosh.
you miss massive grammatical,
Yeah.
spelling, punctuation, and repetitive word
Oh.
usage errors because your brain's automatically fixing it as you're reading it, so you're not seeing it. So your red pen doesn't come
Yeah.
out and change it. And
Yeah,
so
Yeah.
it works
that's why
better.
editors exist.
Right. So that it works. If you're going to do your own editing, you're better to first off take a massive break and then come back to it, so you're almost reading it fresh. Because that helps a
Well,
little bit. That helps a
your
little
own
bit.
editing, I have to say, from someone, from someone who does some writing himself, I highly recommend if you're gonna have anything published, like that you're gonna try to professionally publish, like a book or something, find someone else to do your editing for you because
Yes, absolutely.
you won't see your problems.
And what we do, for instance, me and Allison, when we do editing for a first-time author in our stable of editing, we'll do a 50,000 word book for $50, and that's both me and Allison looking at it. So I do a developmental edit
That
and genre edit,
is
and then
it's
she
dirt
does
cheap.
dirt cheap, and then she does the heavy grammatic and punctuation based on my notes. So I've already made notes of things that might be more genre specific, so she doesn't like axe everything that's genre related. And then we get we get it back out to the author with a guarantee of no more than 3 errors within 250,000 words. So it's really a good guarantee, and we basically base the price off that. So if your first project with us is not 50,000 words, say it's 150,000 words, we charge you $150. Plus, we do a demo chapter for free just to show you the work. And then we take that first project, and that's how we determine how well we work with an author. And then we're not even raising our price up into industry standards yet. We're going to raise it to between uh, 4 cents per thousand words to about 6 cents per thousand words instead of 1 cent per thousand words. I mean, $1 per thousand words. I'm sorry, I'm used to dealing in typing this out. So it's $1 per 1,000 words for the initial, and then we only bump it to $4 to $6 per 1,000 words. That means that your 2,000 word, 200,000 word manuscript at our highest possible price is only going to cost like, $1,200. And then in the industry, that's going to cost you like, $6,000-7,000 in starting level people. So we do this to help people and to get our own business going. Once we've got our initial stable of authors, then of course we're going to raise our prices, but the people that have been with us since the beginning will get in at the lower rates. And Allison has a degree in English. I've got a technical writing background and have been an author myself. And I've got some small things published, including game design and stuff. And so
when I finish writing something that I want to publish that I don't have a non-disclosure agreement on, I might have to give you a call.
Definitely.
Most of what I worked on lately has been not for publishing purposes, for like stand-up stuff or skit stuff, or it's been stuff that I have an NDA on that I'm not allowed to talk about outside of the people I'm working with on it already.
Yeah, and we don't want to make this a commercial about our services.
Yeah.
So we're going to we're going to get away from that now. I just wanted to point out that, yes, like you said, if you're going to publish it professionally, have an editor. You always need at least one set, if not 2 or 3 sets, of fresh eyes to look at your work before you actually send it off for final approval. Because if you have a professional publishing house, they're going to assign you an editor who's going to do it anyway. But if you're going to try to self-publish, you're not going to have that benefit. And so it's a good idea to do it, even if you just get friends or family that are familiar. But they got to be the ones that are honest enough to tell you the changes that actually need to be made and don't just want to stroke your ego.
Yeah.
Because that's always the worry with proofreaders and betas. You don't want a proofreader or beta that always tells you, oh, your work's fantastic. You want constructive criticism. Like, you can tell me, oh, this is fantastic work. However, here's my notes. And then they give you some notes. That's the one you want. That's the guy you want on your proofreading and beta reading staff. Yeah,
I once had a critique on a story where they were like, great story, I love the story, but you said the word door 9 times on one page.
Right, that's the guy you want. The guy that's going to point that stuff out to you. I mean, it's all nice and great that you've got that nice guy that's going to give you the basically blow smoke up your ass. But then you want the guy that's going to go, or girl, who's going to go and say, okay, I like your story. However,
who's going to go cross-eyed with all the grammatical errors because they love
you guys can hear Allison through my headphone through my.
And there will be errors.
And she is a grammar Nazi.
That book series I am reading, she makes me go cross-eyed, but I stick with it because I love the stories.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, and she goes cross-eyed when it comes to that. But anyway, let's go on to the next topic, which is back to Philip. And I have him listed as, this is the xCloud. So take it away, Philip.
Microsoft Store. Okay. So, Microsoft's xCloud, their cloud streaming service component for their Ultimate Pass, their Game Pass service, won't require an Xbox. They actually, they've been beta testing it for a little while, but now it's out as of the 28th, so 2 days ago, out to the public for people who have the Game Pass Ultimate subscription. You can now stream Xbox games on pretty much any device that has either the Microsoft Edge browser or the Google Chrome browser. Or if you're using a Mac device, an Apple device, you can stream your Xbox games through the Safari browser. This is a huge kind of change. They've also, another detail to this, is they've updated their back-end custom hardware on the server side to use a new custom Microsoft Series X hardware instead of Xbox One hardware. So that's improving load times, it's improving visual fidelity, it's improving the resolutions. They really are going all out at making sure people can play their Xbox games, can play Game Pass Xbox games anywhere. I was surprised to see that they could do it on Apple devices because there is still a pending court case about being able to put games on streaming services like this from before. Like you couldn't use an Xbox xCloud app on an iPhone before. They weren't going to allow it. But now you're able to put it on through your web browser. Just stream it through a web browser.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, they're really trying to make their Game Pass kind of their feature thing and work everything around it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like this little headline here. You know, play your Xbox. No Xbox necessary. Sorry.
Yeah, pictures
now,
of the game.
So far, it's only rolled out to... Yeah, it's rolled out of 22 countries. It's not everywhere yet, but 22 countries is a big start for day one on this new service. As tweeted by Xbox Wire, they kind of give a little detail about running on customs hardware and running on Windows 10 PCs, Apple phones, tablets, all that stuff through your browser. They have, I don't know, it's just kind of a crazy new world that we're going to be in with how this is going to all work. And, you know, they also just recently announced Windows 11, which is going to be heavier, have more Xbox gaming features than Windows 10 even has.
So the Xbox game bar will be
I don't want to
go
spend too much time on that. Yeah. It's, I don't know how much more to say about it. It's just a really, I'm a little surprised to see it on Apple devices personally, because of the trouble they had in the past over the xCloud app. But
that's what's got me intrigued. I'm looking at this Backbone One. Looks like a controller frame that you insert a smartphone into. That looks like they specifically call out that it's compatible with iPhones, and it looks like you just slot it in and start playing if you've got the Game Pass.
Yeah, basically, run it through your Safari browser or the Google Chrome browser. The Game Pass web page basically. And it will connect with any like Bluetooth controller that you're able to sync up with it. There might be some that aren't compatible, but in general, it's supposed to work with just about any Bluetooth controller, or on a computer or other device. You can hook it up with a USB controller as well.
Sure, the controller format looks pretty good. It almost looks like a Switch.
It does.
That controller,
or a little bit more contoured. PSP. Hello.
Yeah. Kind of impressive.
And they said they're putting the design for Xbox badge right on that device to show that they're basically, behind it.
Yeah, with a 3-month Xbox Game Pass trial if you buy it.
Nice.
They're really pushing the expanded compatibility.
And their partnership with Blackbone is a great way to get them jump started into it, because I can see a lot of mobile gamers wanting to get that kind of handheld accessory to expand their mobile gaming universe.
Yeah, because mobile gaming is only increasing in popularity, and in my experience, iOS doesn't have a hell of a lot to offer unless you're willing to shell out for it. So if you're, a Game Pass isn't cheap, but a 3-month free trial with purchase of what already looks like a pretty handy accessory is going to go a long way. And then if that hooks them, then that extra money is just going to come down the pipeline.
Yeah.
And not
$15 a month for unlimited play as long as your internet data is able to do it. And that's $15 a month, and that works across your Xbox hardware, your phone hardware, your computers. So just anywhere where you can get on get on the service.
Nice.
And your game saves transfer along with you too. Like it's an
game
intelligent save system.
Because it's on the cloud, yeah.
So,
everything's saved to the cloud.
You can be playing on your Xbox console in one room, and then you decide you need to leave, so you save your game, you leave. You don't have to do any extra uploads, just save it. Just turn up the game. You go out, and then you're, wherever you are, maybe you're stuck at a shop that you're waiting on your car to be fixed or something. Break out your phone, start playing the same game, and you pick up right where you left off from your Xbox.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. And even not just thinking about the Game Pass part, but that backbone, I could see it being used for a lot of non-Xbox applications too, because even MMOs now are starting to become mobile phone friendly. There's mobile phone versions of old school RuneScape out there, so you can play a full MMO, and this kind of controller would totally make a lot of that easier to maneuver through. Because right now you're trying to do it through the touchscreen, and you're very limited because of how your hand responds. But if you have the paddles and everything and just Bluetooth into it, you can suddenly do a lot more with something like this on those games that are gamepad compatible. I mean, some are not. Yeah. Some are mouse dependent, but some are gamepad compatible. So making a partnership with somebody like this is an excellent move on Xbox's part, because there's some people who are just going to get the backbone without even thinking about Xbox, and then turn around and get the demo 3 months while they're at it and then get addicted.
Yeah.
It's good marketing.
Get playing your Forzas and your Halos and your Elder Scrolls.
And Elder Scroll and Far Cry and Dead Like Me and all that kind of stuff. And
yeah, I don't think there's any Far Cries on the Game Pass, but still.
Yeah.
Now, if I remember correctly, I could have my numbers a little mixed up. I think on the Xbox hardware currently, there's more than 300 games you can play. On PC and mobile, it's a little over 100 games, because not quite every game they've gotten to where they fully work correctly with the other hardware. But I'm sure that it's just a matter of time as that keeps growing.
That's a yet kind of thing. It's going to happen. It just hasn't happened yet. All right.
I just look forward to some elite pro gamer getting one-upped by somebody with one of these backbones, just sitting waiting for their dentist appointment to start.
Yeah, right.
I beat you with my phone. Noobs.
I'm not only beating you with my phone, I'm beating you on an iOS device.
Yeah.
My whole rig costs less than your controller, and I beat you.
Right.
Take that, core gaming audience.
And that'll get the pro gamer, because the pro gamer's got freaking the chair, the speakers, the surround monitor systems, and the multi joysticks and everything. They're trying their gaming station looks like something out of freaking War Games or something.
A PC whose graphics card costs more than their rent.
Or was Kevin Smith in that most recent Die Hard when he plays the Warlock, and it comes out to your and he had that full on command center. Yeah, that's what a lot of gamers look like now. This is my command center. And then,
I wish that was the most recent Die Hard. They made another one afterward that was
that's true. And then you just pull out this is my command center, fits in my pocket. All right.
I am Tony Stark.
Right. Well, that's what we're heading closer and closer to. I mean, look at some of the technology that Tony did in the Avengers and stuff. It's getting better and better. Pretty soon, we're going to have those holographic tables and have the ability to actually come up like he did and just take it and you grab it and throw it at the monitor and boom, stuff comes up. And
I finally got my Oculus Quest 2. I've been playing around with the hands-free interface, and I'm probably going to get Demio, that basically virtual tabletop simulator, pretty soon.
Yeah, and I always have...
Let me know how that is. I haven't gotten that app yet, but let me know how that is.
I certainly will.
And I've been kind of dreaming of, like, from Minority Report, how they were doing things when he was scrubbing the images and stuff. You know,
Yeah.
I want that kind of technology in my gaming systems. Hey, personally, I want the holodeck. But hey, I don't ask for much.
That's the capstone.
That's the capstone, right? I want the holodeck. I want to walk in and say, okay, I want to be my D&D character now. And I got it. And that's what we're working towards, and we're getting closer and closer. We may not be getting all the jetpacks and the flying cars and stuff as mainstream as we talked about just 20, 30 years ago. But we are getting more and more virtual reality and augmented reality technology.
You know what's sad? The technology exists to have flying cars, but it's not safe enough to produce them for the public.
Would you trust this public? Would you trust this public in the airway?
No.
I'm
not disagreeing with it. I'm just pointing out the sad fact that the reason we don't have flying cars is because we can't figure out how to drive regular cars well enough.
And not only that, we
won't have to once they drive themselves.
Yes.
We give licenses to 16-year-olds. I wouldn't trust them either. No, I want to get to, like you said, the self-driving cars, like in Minority Report and Demolition Man. Okay, self-drive on. Take a nap.
We won't have flying cars until well after self-driving is fully developed.
Because we can't trust humans to drive around other humans without turning it into bumper cars.
Yeah.
I was about to say, I've driven around this city as much as anybody. You can't tell me it's just 16-year-olds that are accountable.
I'm not saying
for what a pain it is.
I'm not saying it's just them.
That's true.
I'm just saying that they're a big part of it.
I have been hit by other drivers, I think 3 different times, and none of them were teenagers.
I'm just scared because Allison's son just turned 16. You know, so it's got my fear muscles contracting in weird ways. But
it's a volatile time.
But I've also lived in Florida, so I know what certain geriatric drivers and just plain. I'm also from California, which invented road rage. So we invented road rage. Trust me on this. So that's it. Okay, we're going on. The next topic is, I believe, Greg, and it had to do with Magic designer Mark Rosewater. So go ahead, Greg.
I haven't played Magic the Gathering in years. I still have a bunch of friends that do, and Mark Rosewater is one of my favorite people in the game design industry. He has a great sense of humor. He lives and breathes game design. His wedding was tabletop gaming themed to the point where instead of having bride's family on one side and groom's family on the other, everybody who walked into the church rolled a giant D6, and evens are on one side, odds are on the other. So this guy is just about as geeky as it gets, and he put out an announcement via his Tumblr, which some people generously copy-pasted onto a news article about the upcoming Magic the Gathering set, and further fusing, they've done a whole bunch of supplemental books where they've basically converted Magic the Gathering planes into D&D alternate realities. Now it looks like they're going back the other way, and they're doing Adventures in the Forgotten Realms as a Magic the Gathering set. So anybody who's a fan of that setting is going to be in for some fun times. And even if you're in it just for the mechanics and the competition, they're doing some interesting things. He made a bulleted list. I'll list off as many as I care to. some of which look interesting even as long gone as I've been. Things like a new enchantment subtype, that's not hard to implement. A card granting -11/-11. The largest creature I've seen ever printed, I might be wrong because it's been a while, whose natural abilities were printed on the card was a 20/20, and most creatures don't get more than like 4 or 5 power or toughness. So a -11 is huge.
Yeah.
Uh,
In the original game, the biggest non-asterisk thing you could get was the Colossus of Sardia, which was a 9/9 that you had to spend 9 colorless mana to untap. So yeah, that -11/-11 would totally kill Colossus of Sardia.
and when I was just getting started, the person who taught me the game had a deck that was built around Sarah Avatar, which had power and toughness equal to your life total. So it was a life gain deck where you build and build and build yourself, and then drop a creature that just stomps on whatever is in its way.
Yeah,
A
yeah.
creature with a death trigger that makes an equipment token. Equipment was something that was introduced way back in Kamigawa and has slowly built. Actually, no, it was introduced in Mirrodin. Kamigawa was after Mirrodin, I think. Um, so it sounds like something that dies and just drops its weapon as it dies, and then another creature can pick it up and go to town with it. A legendary creature that makes a legendary hamster creature token, which sounds hilarious on the face of it and is apparently a reference to a specific uh character from the Forgotten Realms. Doc, you could probably speak to that better than I could.
Um, the bag of tricks, you can pull out like furry things and throw them out, and they usually come out to be some kind of like animal. And hamsters and rodents and stuff are a common thing to get pulled out of the bag of tricks. So that's probably referencing a bag of tricks of some kind.
All right. Something only seen previously in unsets comes to Black Border. That one's got me excited. For those who don't play the game, the unsets
Or the
years and years ago there
the
was
parody sets.
Yeah, there was Unglued, there was Unhinged, and they did a third unset a couple years ago, and they all have silver bordered cards instead of the traditional black bordered cards to signify that they are non-canon, they are non-tournament legal, they are completely experimental and are designed to just go crazy. Like cards in previous editions were things like play a land card and it comes into play, put a land card into play tapped, untap it if you sing during the whole time you're playing the card, or a card where a global enchantment where if anybody flicks a card in their hand or some other verbal or somatic trigger, then you can sacrifice the enchantment and destroy a permanent they own. Things that are just completely bonkers and wouldn't fly, but they're experimental, one, for fun's sake, and two, just to see what they can get away with and maybe implement into future mechanics, which it looks like they're doing. An artifact that's a musical instrument that creates harmony counters, possibly maybe something to generate a creature, or maybe another alternate win condition like the old oh blast, what's the old 5-color card?
Oh,
Coalition Victory.
Coalition Victory. I've got a Coalition Victory deck.
Yeah, that was a fun card.
I've also got a 316 card life deck that's got the Avatar in it and enough life to where I can often have like 300 life.
Cards that let you decide where the story goes. That's and Mark Rosewater likes to tease and be cryptic, so this could mean a number of things. It could mean that they're working on a metagame and that they're going to build towards something like what the old L5R, the old Legend of the Five Rings card game did, where the way that tournaments progress and who wins and who loses actually influences the metagame. So they might be looking forward to a world tournament thing where, depending on what color of deck wins or what legendary creatures or artifacts are in the winning deck, that might actually influence where they go with the story from there. Or it could just be something like the flip cards from Kamigawa, where you've got a creature that looks like one thing, but you hit a trigger, you hit a point in that character's story, and they flip and become something more powerful or gain some new interesting mechanic. There's a lot of ways that could go.
Yeah, a card that creates a legendary creature token named Vecna. Now that's
Yeah,
for us hardcore D&D
that's
people.
terrifying.
That's terrifying. A Vecna token? You mean more than one Vecna? It's bad enough you get more than one Vecna
Well,
part.
it's still legendary. So unless you have that one artifact from Kamigawa, you can still only have one of them in play. But the fact that it's a card that creates the token, which somebody observed, probably means it's an artifact, either the eye or the hand of Vecna. But in either case, that's going to be scary and very interesting. Exchange your hand and library. I've never seen anything close to this done before, which if it is what it sounds like, you literally either hand your deck and your existing hand to the other player, or probably easier logistically, just get up and trade chairs and sit on opposite sides of the table. Some kind of soul jar thing where you and your opponent, who in the lore of Magic the Gathering are planeswalkers in your own right, just switch places. One of you casts a spell and it's like, okay, I'm you now and you're me now. That seems problematic on the face of it, because there's all kinds of ways you can hose yourself and then play that card at the last minute, do a kind of Captain Ginyu thing where you all but kill yourself and then switch bodies at the last possible moment.
Then there's one like you may cast this creature's name from your graveyard if a creature not named this creature's name died this turn.
Yeah. But these people have also had a long time to practice their craft, and I'm sure they've looked at these things and gone, okay, how could you break this game? They've hired people who have won tournaments by finding exploits to these rules and been like, okay, you're really good at this. Take this pile of cards and just break this game as hard as you possibly can. Then we know it needs fixing.
I was one of the first tournament judges for Magic, I know. There's a card that's got me squeeing right at the very bottom. Legendary creature, Beholder. I am a Beholder fanatic. I love them. I love them. I love them. Creature, Bird Bear. Anybody want to say owlbear?
Yeah. What do you suppose that could possibly be? A creature, elf spider. I wonder what that is.
Driger, yeah.
The legendary creatures, especially, I'm sure refer to canonical characters from Forgotten Realms lore. I'm almost positive the Beholder is Xanathar, because isn't he the Lord of the Underworld in Waterport?
He's a secret crime boss in
Waterdeep.
In Waterdeep.
Yeah.
He controls the Thieves Guild in Waterdeep.
So yeah, if you're an old school fan of Forgotten Realms, there's a whole lot there to absorb. If you're just a general Magic the Gathering fan, there's a whole lot to absorb. And if you've been on the fringes and you're like, I'm kind of new school, I've never played Forgotten Realms, I don't know if I like it or not, this will give you some insight to the setting. Even if you're not a hardcore Magic or D&D player, just looking at the illustrations and the characters and the mechanics will give kind of a visual guide to the setting and maybe provide some inspiration for what you'd want to do with something like that.
Well, all I know is I haven't played Magic since the Invasion block, because it just got too commercial for me. It was too much about buying your way to winning. But this set is the first set in a long time that I might get just to own the cards.
Yeah.
Just to own these cards.
Yeah. Now, when they do a set that is Eberron themed, I'll be there with bells on.
See, I'm the opposite. As much as I love Keith Baker, I'm not a big fan of Eberron. So
I want a Warforged deck. I want a Shifter deck. I want a Kalashtar deck. I don't even know how that would work, but I want one. Yeah, there's from here. It looks like there's nowhere to go but up with this theming idea.
Oh, and they're going to probably then come out the Forgotten Realms first. Then they'll talk to Keith Baker and see if he'll license Eberron, and he'll do it. I mean, he's good about that, especially if they give him any kind of creative control, because
Yeah.
he loves his setting and he loves producing
What?
games.
WotC still owns Eberron, don't they? They hire Keith as a consultant and to get his insight on his own setting, but they still own the setting, don't they?
They own the right to produce in the setting based on the rules of the competition that he won. But
Right.
I believe that the actual IP itself belongs to Keith.
Interesting.
But he can't restrict them from using it based on the competition. Because he is the designer.
And this is why I'm not a lawyer.
I'm not absolutely sure. But we both know Keith. We could always shoot him a message and find out. He would tell us.
Oh yeah.
But
If they do start developing something like that, I follow Keith on Facebook and Instagram. If that happens, I'm sure I will learn about it soon enough.
oh, I'm sure I'll be like, first thing I'll be, Keith, are you involved with this project? Because I would.
Do you need playtesters?
I wouldn't get behind a project unless Keith was involved. You know, one of the few Kickstarters I did get involved with was the Gloom Digital.
Yeah,
that was a good one. Anyway,
definitely.
So that's yeah, I've been hearing about this, so it's not real news to me. Although some of this extra information is, but I've seen a couple of demo cards that look really freaking promising for how they're going to kind of adapt.
Yeah, the
D&D.
setting isn't news. All this information that Mark Rosewater posted to his blog was originally posted on the 23rd, so exactly a week ago.
Yeah, and I've heard that, and Metagames has been talking about the new set getting ready to come out, which, as we've said here through Eclectic Endeavors and many times, Metagames here in Springfield is one of our constant sponsors for a lot of the events and stuff we do. So if you want to hear about when this new set comes out, get over to Metagames and reserve your early packs, because I have a feeling that those initial packs are going to sell out like freaking hotcakes. You know, like they're going to go like Magic went when it first came out and people started realizing, or Pogs did. It's going to be something like Pogs and Beanie Babies and Tickle Plumbos. It's
now
be
you hit me in the heart. Like I've never done Magic, but you mentioned Pogs. It takes me back to the 90s.
That's the thing is they've been so many fad crazes that when they first hit and people realize they turn into like freaking werewolves or something, and they transform and they salivate and they become bestial and they're like must have, Hulk smash.
I keep, once I started following a certain Twitch streamer, I started hearing Pog and Pogger over and over again as some kind of euphemism or abbreviation. I had to do some Google Foo to learn that Pog is an acronym for play of the game. Until I learned that, I was like, why do people keep bringing Pogs? Are Pogs coming back? Are Pogs coming back and I missed it?
Yeah, they always say Pog on mine, and I don't add the extension that lets their Pog little animated GIF show up.
Yeah.
And I've asked them on many occasions, I know Pog means like something special, but what exactly does it mean? But yeah, it's play of the game.
Yeah.
And stuff, and it doesn't mean Pogs are coming back. However, there were a couple of variations on Pog. I know, because Pogs had some interesting. There was a tabletop game called Disc Wars that was kind of took the Pog thing and combined it with the tabletop wargaming theme, and it was pretty interesting. I've got a Warhammer set of it. I think my set's Warhammer, and I used to play Disc Wars all the time. I collected them for quite a while, which was right in between the Magic and Pog era when those both were ginormous at the same time. And
I should also add Before I wrap this up, to wrap this up, I should add one point of clarification because I didn't explain who Mark Rosewater is. He is and has been the head designer of Magic the Gathering for years. If you are a fan of game design in any way, shape, or form, not just collectible card games, not even just card games, go on the Magic the Gathering website and look for the article series called Making Magic. He's been authoring it for years, once a week, and he's got some of the best insights into the industry and into the process of design and development of anybody I could ever recommend.
There's a lot of sharp developers over there at Wizards of the Coast.
Mhm.
Like Chris Perkins has run that dungeon designer um, article in Dragon Magazine for years, and
And
he always taught people how to build a campaign setting from the ground up, and then he walked you through from issue to issue building a campaign setting. Then he'd start again with another concept, another campaign setting, and do it again. And Chris Perkins is one of the lead developers on the Dungeons and Dragons side of things. Um, then there's people like Mont Cook. There's the Gygaxes themselves, who are not working directly for Wizards of the Coast, but got all this stuff started. There's some great developers out there, and you can learn a lot. Keith Baker himself is by far one of my favorite game developers with Together Studios, and I think Greg will agree with me on this one. And so if you can check out Together Studios, you're going to learn a lot about game development if you follow Keith and ever get a chance to talk to him about game design, because he'll talk at length. And he's one of the nicest guys to talk to.
oh yeah, still
Absolutely.
thoroughly influencing the industry. While I was looking for things to talk about, I found an article called 15 gifts for your tabletop gamer friends, and they were all categorized, and one of them was upping your card game, and the recommended gift was Illimat, which is a Together Studios production, which I own and have helped Keith demo at Gen Con, and it's a piece of work. It's a piece of art.
It's a fun game. I like it quite a bit. I've played it.
And as some people may or may not know, Keith has been a guest at Game twice. The first time he was our first ever special guest. In year 5, the first time we could afford a celebrity special guest, Keith Baker was our first ever special guest, and he made everybody so at ease and comfortable. And he didn't sit at his booth and just sign autographs. He was like almost never at his booth.
Oh no.
He was running around playing games with other people when he wasn't at a panel. He was constantly moving. I mean, you had to have roller skates to keep up with this guy. You did.
Yeah.
And he was such a great personal person. And you know where, for instance, one of the great foibles he had that I loved, and I think a lot of us did, is that, everybody comes up and asks a celebrity for their autograph. Well, if you played in his game, he had you autograph his handbook. And he does that at all the conventions he goes to. So if you look through his handbook, he's got autographs of all these different players that have played in his games. And then another book, like he got all of us on the board of directors to autograph his book because we were part of the convention he'd gone to. So, he's very personable, very down to earth. His wife is just the same. And so if you get a chance, as a personal recommendation, I think from all three of us, we could all easily get behind this. If there's one person that we would definitely recommend that we've seen in person, Keith Baker is that one person. He's awesome. And Together Studios is something to watch.
Yeah.
And he has a very different take on games, so he's not going to come out with the same old game. Not Keith.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's enough of that. What do we got next?
Okay, next. All right. This one's just a little brief one I was going to point out. The second campaign for Critical Role is over with. They're in transition. They haven't started like a third campaign or anything yet. However, they have started something called Exandria Unlimited.
I heard
And
about this.
And the first episode dropped, and it's now on YouTube, so you can watch it for free because it's past the rebroadcast time, and you can actually get it on YouTube now. And one of the best things about it, I mean, the only three from the original series are Matt Mercer, Liam O'Brien, and Ashley Johnson are the only ones playing in this one. But the fact is, Matt Mercer is playing in this one, and you have not seen a great game of televised D&D until you've seen Matt Mercer as a player. I mean, he's a great, phenomenal DM. Don't get me wrong. He does some of the best NPCs you could imagine. But take that NPC skill, spread out on all those different NPCs, and then focus that in on one character. And the guy is a consummate actor. He's so great. And so come in and watch Exandria Unlimited. It's got a whole new DM. I'm not familiar with her, so I can't tell you her name. It's got two other
Abria
Yeah.
Iyengar. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but I have heard of her because she also goes by the name Quiddy online, and she is the chief, I want to say financial officer, the CFO. I might be wrong on that. She works with Dice Envy, who I've bought metal dice from. Really good stuff.
Nice. But I'll tell you, during the game, just to give an example, Ashley Johnson's character is a druid faun whose creature companion is an infernal monkey.
An infernal monkey.
And um, what's called, just Matt Mercer's character is a dwarven warlock or sorcerer. He's either sorcerer or warlock. I can't remember which. No, he's a sorcerer because the girl next to him is a warlock. He's a dwarven sorcerer, and the monkey and him don't get along. And it's great because the DM will screech like a monkey several times during the broadcast, and it's amazing because it just catches you by surprise. Because every the monkey's mentioned, she screeches and she describes the monkey and the burning inside, to give you the impression it's infernal. They never actually say it's an infernal monkey, but because of her description, it's an infernal monkey. And then Liam O'Brien is trying to remember what his character is. Anyway, the guy next to Liam, he's a bard, and I believe he's an Air Genasi bard.
Robbie Damon, yeah.
Robbie Damon. And the girl down below is a warlock, and I can't remember what race she is. But, oh, that's right. Liam O'Brien is the human fighter. Or no, the halfling fighter. So he comes up to the monkey. He says, I look down at the monkey. Well, actually, no, I kind of look up at the monkey. Well, okay, we're about the same height. It's just great because the interplay between these characters is almost better than going into any battle scene. You just want to hear them interplay with each other. And so if you get a chance, Critical Role is one of the things that really put D&D on the map in the Twitch generation. It's part of the main selling point that turned 4th and 5th edition into such big successes on the market. Believe it or not, 4th was a success in the market. It just didn't make enough of a success for Wizards. But 5th edition's huge impact has partly been because of shows like Critical Role and Acquisitions Incorporated and stuff of that nature. And so go over to Critical Role, watch the first and second campaign if you haven't had a chance to watch those. But if you want to get into something fresh and new and see Matt Mercer as a player, which you've had a chance to see throughout the years every once in a while, he's played in Dread and a couple other games, but he's almost always behind the DM screen. But occasionally you get him as a player. And I'm telling you, if you think he shines as a DM, any DM would love to have him sitting at their table. And
That's my plan. There's so much lore. The campaigns, the core campaigns that Matt Mercer runs are so long. I'm looking forward to maybe get into this mini campaign, and maybe that'll be my in finally into the Critical Role universe.
right. And I would love to, before I die, which, I'm getting on in years and my health is bad, but before I die, I would love to sit down at a table with Matt Mercer and just pick his brain. I've been playing longer than him. I've been playing longer than he's been alive. But when it comes to setting a scene, I mean, granted, I don't have the advantages he has, like professional set designers and stuff working on his scenery and everything. And the fact that he's producing it on a broadcast, so he has to up his game a little bit for the televised audience. But still, like I'll say, every DM has some to learn from every other DM out there. And Matt Mercer's one that I want to pick the brain of so badly. And so if you get a chance, check out the Exandria Unlimited. It's first episode's about 4 hours long. There's a break about halfway through. And they're going to drop a new episode once a week. Then after like 1 to 2 weeks delay, it'll be on YouTube. And since this one's on YouTube now, that means within a week, the next one will be on YouTube. And just make it your weekly thing to get like 4 hours of D&D in, especially for those of us who haven't got a chance to get back around the table yet. It's a great surrogate to that. And just watching the interplay of these players, this is the dream that DMs want to see. Their actual reality and their actual players very rarely fully live up to this level because of course, these are actors and voice actors who really get into their roles and they're playing to a camera and playing to an audience. But if you can get your players to even be half as invested as these players get, you can call yourself a success as a DM. And so I just wanted to recommend that this week to everybody.
If you can get a regularly meeting group, you can consider yourself a successful DM.
You ain't lying there.
Yeah.
That meets more
Now,
than three sessions before disbanding.
I'm not sure about the Exandria stuff, but I have seen a number, because I don't have enough time myself personally to watch these programs, but I have seen a number of clips of footage with the guy on the bottom row with the cup.
That's Matt Mercer. That's the guy we're talking about.
Okay. So I've seen a number of clips of him as a DM doing a thing that features Laura Bailey, who is a voice actress that's done a lot of great stuff.
Well, Laura and her husband Travis are part of their regular D&D group.
Yeah.
In fact,
and so I've seen a number of clips of Laura Bailey being silly on there. Apparently Laura Bailey has got like the dirtiest mind of the group. And so whenever someone says anything they realize might be taken sexually inappropriate, everyone turns and looks at Laura because they know she's about to say something. Make a joke out of it.
Partly depends on which character she's playing, because Jester's a lot more raunchy than Vex was. But the original, just for you to get some background, Lurch, the original Critical Role started because it was Liam O'Brien's birthday, the guy in the middle top, and he's a voice actor and producer of animes adapted for the U.S. audience. And so basically he's used to working with voice actors, and he's a voice actor himself. Anyway, his best friend is Sam Riegel, who has voiced like everybody in the industry, man. And they came together and got Matt Mercer to run a game for him for his birthday, and they invited Ashley Johnson and Laura and Travis came along, and there was another guy that left after a while. I can't remember his name right now.
Yeah.
And they were a regular group playing Pathfinder during the 4th edition years. And then when Felicia Day started her um, Geek and Sundry channel on Twitch, one of the first shows she got the right to, she talked to Matt Mercer and the gang and got them to let her televise their home game every week on her channel. And so that's how the Critical Role started. And then they went through the first campaign, which they were already kind of deep into before they started. So the televised starts when they're much higher level. But then they started their second campaign after that one ended. And we really kind of started the characters out at like second or third level is when we first got to interact with them. Just because they wanted to get them past the getting their subclasses and everything for the main characters. But they just finished like a 2-year run on the second campaign. And before doing a third actual campaign, they're taking a break to do these Exandria Unlimited things. Also, you being someone who's done a little bit of acting work and stuff, may or may not realize, but Matt Mercer has done some actual acting as well. He was the main villain in the movie Mythica Part 3 and 4 with Kevin Sorbo.
Oh.
So if you ever find Mythica 3 and Mythica 4, the end bad guy is Matt Mercer. And all of them, and Ashley Johnson, of course, the upper right-hand corner, the blonde, was in the Avengers movie as the waitress that was saved by Captain America in the
I thought I recognized her.
Battle for New York. She's the waitress. And she's in that other show.
Oh, she's the one that's like talking on the news about him?
Yeah.
At the end?
Yeah.
Yes. And she's also in the TV show Blind Spot as the tech support for the group that are investigating the girl that showed up with no memory and all the tattoos around her body.
Yeah, that's a Jamie Alexander show, right?
Yeah. She's the tech expert on that show, which is why she missed a lot of episodes of Critical Role because she had to move to the city where they did the production of that show, which is New York, while the Critical Role guys are all in LA. And so she would, whenever she was in LA, she would guest spot and take up her character again in the group. And sometimes she would Zoom or Skype in and play, but a lot of times she was written out of the plot because she was working on Blind Spot.
Yeah.
But yeah, so she's more of a working actress, not just a voice actress.
Yeah, we're going to see. We're going to briefly talk about Jamie Alexander again later in this in today's talk conversation too.
And well, we're coming to your next topic right now, which is should be your Nintendo platform thing, I think.
Yes.
So go for it. Let's use that as our segue. So you go for it, Lurch.
Okay. So last week I talked a little bit about how Nintendo was releasing. They announced Kazuya as a playable character, which he's now available to play. When they announce a new fighter for Smash Brothers, it doesn't take long for him to be playable after he's initially announced. He or she is initially announced. So Kazuya is now a playable character. Hang on just a second. Huh? So, sorry, I was being asked something. All right, so we went over that, but at the same time they released Kazuya as a playable character, they also released some new costumes for other fighters, for what they call Mii fighters within the Smash Brothers game.
Mm-hmm.
So a couple of them I'm familiar with: the Dragonborn from Elder Scrolls Skyrim and Dante from Devil May Cry. I'm not familiar with Lloyd or Shanai. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it correctly.
Shantae.
Shantae?
Mm-hmm.
So, so we got Lloyd is from Tales of Symphonia. I haven't played that one, and I haven't played obviously I haven't played the Shintae game, but I've played Devil May Cry and I've played, Skyrim. I don't know who hasn't played Skyrim. I think anyone that's ever used a console or PC for gaming has played Skyrim at some point. So I think they're cool. Yeah. So they look great. I think these outfits look great, but there is a little bit of controversy because a lot of people were really, really hoping that Dante was going to be a playable fighter, like as a full-fledged playable fighter for Smash Brothers. And there's only one character left after Kazuya. They've said that they're doing one more character after Kazuya, and then they're done with new characters. And everyone was really hoping that Dante was going to be one of the playable fighters. And instead of getting him as a full playable fighter, we're getting like a wig and an outfit that makes another fighter who's a different sword fighter look like Dante, which isn't quite the same. I'm no one's upset about the Dragon Board because Dragon Board's kind of a generic thing, doesn't need a Dragon Board character. And the other two, I think, were kind of surprise characters, but people were really asking for Dante from Devil May Cry, and making him a costume for the Mii fighter has let a lot of Devil May Cry fans down a little bit. So we're going to probably hear more about all that. Because generally speaking, or at least so far, every character that they've put a costume for a Mii fighter out, that character basically gets nixed out unofficially as a possible DLC fighter, like as his own individual DLC fighter.
Because they've already touched bases with him, yeah.
Yeah, they've already touched. Their inclusion of him is that he's a skin. He's an outfit. I personally would have preferred him being his own fighter, but because he's going to have his own abilities. So I do understand the disappointment in it, but I do also think he looks pretty slick there.
Also, if they've planned out the last couple of fighters, they might have a specific plan in mind, and it's probably smart of them not to want to keep adding more and more and more and more when they're much more likely to want to eventually come up with the next game in the series and then start over again.
Well, the guy who makes the games, Sakurai, he says this is going to be the very last Smash Brothers that he's ever going to work on. He said he's done with the franchise. This is the 5th game in the series, and he didn't want to make this one, but he decided he got convinced to make it, so that's why he called it Ultimate, because it's going to be the ultimate Smash Brothers game. It's going to be the Smash game to end all Smash games. And I think, I could be mistaken, I think Kazuya is the 9th added character since the release of the game. And it has a massive roster as it is. Even not counting the Mii fighters, which the Mii fighters, basically the Mii fighters are like 3 different classes. You got your sword fighter, your brawler, and your shooter. And they're all highly customizable, so you can give them all kinds of different combinations of moves and different skins to kind of simulate having a lot of additional fighters in addition. Mm-hmm. But even without counting them, there is a huge list of fighters in the Smash Brothers games.
But 10 is for added fighters afterwards, 10 is a good number to stop at. And I understand that. And since they might have already a preset plan on who that 10th one's going to be, they might not want to waste the spot.
That's what, like 70 characters?
Something in that ballpark. I don't know the exact number, but yeah, that's the character select screen. There are a ton of characters. Let's see, it is. So we got 1, 2, 3. We got 6 down. 13 across. So what's that going to be? 72, 80. So I think it's 80 plus. 88 plus or 86. Yeah, I think that's right. 86 plus another right at the bottom of 1, 2, 3.
Did you say 6 by 13?
Yeah.
That's 78.
78. Okay.
And then
78 plus 79, 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85. So 85,
Wow.
85 playable fighters currently, and that's if you count the Mii fighters as only one per class type. You don't count all the unique combinations you can make out of that.
Mortal Kombat, eat your heart out.
Yeah, right. Like the biggest Mortal Kombat was 65 fighters, and that was Mortal Kombat Armageddon on the PS2. Yeah, it is. I could be wrong. I think this is the largest roster of any fighting game.
It's
I mean,
gotta be.
you've got Mega Man, you got Pokemon, you got characters from Earthbound, you got Metroid, Mario, Donkey Kong, Sonic the Hedgehog, other Metroid characters like Ridley, King K. Rool, and other Donkey Kong people, Piranha Plant, Kazuya from Tekken, Banjo-Kazooie, Joker from Persona 5, Min Min from the punching game. I forget the name of the punching game now. Inkling from Splatoon, Little Mac from
Punch Out.
Punch Out.
Yeah.
Wow, Solid Snake from Metal Gear. Just so many people. Sephiroth and Cloud from Final Fantasy VII.
Is Kirby in there somewhere?
Yep, Kirby. Steve from Minecraft. A couple of Street Fighter characters. Terry from Final Fight. Olimar from Pikmin. Simon and I think there's another one. Simon and someone else from Richter. Simon and Richter from Castlevania. Bayonetta. Wii Fit Trainer. Villager. Star Fox. Like
That's
Pac-Man. It's a ton. It is a ton. There's a lot of speculation of who's next. There's a lot. I think there's a lot of weight to go into this final fighter. The very supposedly, according to Sakurai, the creator, he's going to be the final character to ever go into a Smash Brothers game.
And that will be
who's it going to be?
The 10th added character. That would be like an event. So keep your eyes peeled, and we'll find out on that one. Now, the only game I could think of that might have more fighters than that is the fighter version of Pokemon. Just because there's that many types of Pokemon out there, but it would depend on how many were in the fight game.
The one that just came out the other day, Kazuya, is the 11th additional fighter. So the next one will be the 12th.
Wow.
12 is another good roundish number. We think in 10s and 12s a lot. In European and American culture, we do. In Asia, they are more likely to think in like base 16 and stuff, but it just kind of depends. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's another massive one. Let's see. Looks like we're going into mostly our media stuff from here. Let me see. Somebody sent me a message on Facebook. Let me make sure it's not something we need for this. Oh, nope. It has nothing to do with the game, so we'll get to that later. What was it? That was down to was the last thing we're in. I get to my media recommendation from the vault, as it were, an older movie or TV show that people may have forgotten that or never even experienced because they're of the younger new generation, and it might be quirky, it might be fun, might be campy, or even good acting once in a great while. But usually it's terrible special effects and it's very cheesy. And today's offering is called Dr. Mordred, Master of the Unknown. It was basically a movie where Mordred is kind of for one thing, there was a Dr. Mordred in comic books, but I don't think he was directly related to that Mordred. He's more like a Doctor Strange kind of clone. He protects the Earth from a a evildoer named Cabal, which is, if you guys recognize kind of this guy right here, he's played a freaking villain in everything imaginable. He's the ultimate like villain extra. He's been like 3 or 4 demons in Buffy the Vampire Slayer. He's been in everything.
Oh
But
yeah.
yeah, this guy is like, he's been in the remake for The Hills of Eyes. He's just the ultimate bad guy bruiser kind of thing, and he's constantly playing those kind of bad guys. Anyway, he plays Cabal, which turns out these two were raised together, learned magic together. They're from another plane of existence, and they're fighting over kind of the Earth. He wants to basically rule, and Mordred is dedicated to protecting people. And in the movie, basically, Cabal gets released from the prison that he was trapped in somehow. And so certain items start coming up missing, which leads Mordred to realize that Cabal must be free. And so he goes trying to fight, and he's got a police consultant who lives in the building he owns, who's an expert on, occult and languages, who ends up becoming his confidant by the end of the movie. It's very cheesy. Um, he's got a pet or a familiar raven called Edgar Allan. Um, it follows some of the older, quirky tropes. He did astral projections, one of the main abilities he uses. During the movie, both of him and the bad guy each animate a skeleton in a museum. One's a dinosaur, one's a woolly mammoth, and those fight out. So you got giant skeletons duking it out. So that can be a lot of fun. He's got an amulet that kind of sort of reminiscent of the Eye of Agamotto, but it's not anywhere near as cool. But its main ability is to kind of freeze people in time for a couple seconds. They're not actually frozen in time. They're just kind of stunned by a flash of light. So, like, if they're drinking something, it splashes all over their face and everything. Unlike where if Doctor Strange did something like that, they'd actually the water would drip slower and everything too, because he'd actually freeze time. But that's Doctor Strange, and he's got like the friggin' time stone within the Eye of Agamotto, so he can do that
Well,
kind of shit.
he did
What?
it. He did it in the first one and a
Right.
half movies he was in.
Yeah. But anyway, he's kind of a pseudo ripoff of Doctor Strange, and
Yeah.
and this is from like the '80s. So you want to like go back to a movie like that. Check it out. It's fun, campy, and if anything else, it's good to compare it to the movies and stuff we're getting nowadays, just to see the leaps and bounds of improvement. Just like watching the old Captain America versus watching the new Captain America, or
Yeah.
things of that nature.
So
And
this Dr. Mildred is from 1992. I'm curious how it compares to the original Doctor Strange movie from 1978. I think it was 78.
from
Wasn't that the
'78,
original Doctor?
that was the first movie, I think. And it's been so long since I'd seen it. The only thing I remember,
Yeah. 78.
is there was a
Yeah.
line. There was a line in the Doctor Strange movie where the sorcerer that was teaching Doctor Strange told him when he wanted to cast his one spell, say, in the name of Riot, Prince of Elves, Demon Be Gone, was the one of the big spell, and he kind of adapted it later in the movie and said the name of Riot and said something else, but it didn't quite work right and stuff. But it's been so long since I've seen that movie. That's a good one though too for the vault.
Yeah.
If I could ever find it. But this one is available on Tubi, so it can be watched on Tubi, which is a free streaming service. I do like to recommend movies that people can see for free. Uh, and we'll see what I pull out of the vault next week. We're getting into our main media section now, and this is going to be fairly
Yeah.
spoiler heavy. Now, usually about this time, we say goodnight to Greg. So you want to go ahead and say your goodnights, Greg, or are you going to hang out this time?
I will be saying goodnight, but you can find me tomorrow afternoon. I'm delaying a little bit because of a prior appointment, but I will be doing my regular Thursday live stream at 2 o'clock. And the Queen City Cardboard Discord channel is almost done. I just need to put a kind of terms and conditions thing on it, just so anybody who joins the network knows how to conduct themselves. Most people are decent, but it's nice to have it down in writing. But
That's
I'm
true.
looking forward to that. That way we can maybe get a community going and get some online board gaming, maybe even role-playing games going on.
Yeah, I got to add some
But that's
rules to mine.
Nice.
but that's the state of that so far. Still doing the live streams, still on YouTube, also at Queen City Cardboard, also on Instagram at Queen City Cardboard. So keep in touch, see what games I'm involved in, digital or otherwise, and let me know what you're involved in. And see me, as Doc said at the top of the show, on every third Wednesday of the month when I'll be at Holdfast Brewing, putting together jigsaw puzzles and teaching people new board games.
And not to mention enjoying a nice new microbrew every week. Every
Or
time you
two
go.
or three.
Right. So
And
for those
wearing this. So if and wearing this. So if you ever have trouble finding me, this is it.
Are you wearing you wearing your game shirt? I don't know
Oh
what
yeah.
Okay.
Got I'm not wearing it now, but when I'm there representing, yes.
Yeah, and that's the thing is we do have several different game shirts that you'll see on us at different times. If you ever do get a chance to go to one of our physical conventions, that's one of the things you want to make sure to do is reserve a shirt. But anyway, we're going to say goodnight to Greg. You have a good time. It's great seeing you. And we'll talk to you next week, Greg.
Will do. You all take care.
Mm-hmm.
Bye, Greg.
Bye.
Mhm.
And let me just convert you over just a second here.
Yeah. While you're converting over, I wanted to do a quick shout out of my own of an old movie I just recently watched called Taxi Driver, starring Al Pacino, made by directed
Classic.
by Martin Scorsese. It's a 1978 or 1976 film. That's basically the new Joker movie without it being the Joker. The Joker draws a lot from Taxi Driver if you were to imagine him working as a taxi driver, but goes through a lot of similar psychosis issues and dealing with the struggling sickness of the city, talking about how the city's full of filth and struggling with everything and everything going wrong, not quite going his way. He's not trying to be a comedian. He's just trying to make his way as a taxi driver and keep busy. And then I don't want to give away too much about it, but there's a lot of similarities between Taxi Driver and Joker. And like Joker, it's an uncomfortable movie to watch. So it won't be for everybody. It has some uncomfortable elements to it, but I think they pay off well.
Not to mention, for the older generation, it's probably one of the first movies they would have experienced Joe Pesci in. One of, not necessarily the first movie, because he was in a couple before that, but it was one of the first ones that he was in.
What was Joe Pesci doing in that? I don't remember him being in the film.
Oh, am I not thinking Pesci? I'm thinking
The star was Al Pacino.
Al Pacino, not Pesci.
Yeah.
Al Pacino. That's right. But it's one of the first ones that you'll remember Pacino in.
Yeah. It's got a very young Al Pacino.
Yes. I don't know why I said Joe Pesci. Because it's not Pesci. Sometimes I get the two names mixed up, but I really know the difference. I really do. Okay, we're going to go into our normal media part first off, we're going to go ahead and apologize because we said this week we would be letting everybody know the direction that Superman and Lois was going to go. But it turns out they're taking a 2-week break. So
Yeah.
this week and next week, we don't get any Superman and Lois. We will not see them till the 13th is the next time that they'll be on, which means we get 2 weeks until we can actually talk about Superman and Lois again. So I wanted to get
Like,
that.
we've only had, 3 episodes since the last time they went on break?
I think in this case,
Superman takes more vacations than any hero I've ever seen.
Yeah. Well, I think in this case, they want the cliffhanger to sit there and hang for a little bit just to build tension. And it gives them a chance to rerun because of the fact that it's the new show on the network for this season so far. And so they want to give a chance to run a rerun or two.
I can't say too much. At least their breaks aren't 3 months long like Supergirl's.
This is true.
Boy.
So, in the Berlantiverse, Superman and Lois are on hiatus yet again. So we got to wait on pins and needles to find out what's going to go on with Superman and John Henry Irons and the boys and Lois and Morgan Edge.
Supergirl episode to replace Superman slot.
And we know, because of earlier leaks and because it started to happen in other shows now, that John Diggle is going to show up soon in the show because he's supposed to do cameos in pretty much all of the Berlantiverse. He's already done a cameo in Batwoman, which was the 16th episode, which I rewatched last night or this morning because I had not realized that I dozed off during the part where Diggle was there. And I was like, wait a minute, he's already been in? Hold on. And so I had to go backtrack. And I realized it was one of those points because I often watch him right at the middle of the night when I'm trying to get to sleep. And so, and since Batwoman's not one of the ones that I normally keep us updated on, I'm not too worried about going back and rehashing it. This time I had to because Diggle came in. And then going on to his second guest spot was this week on Legends of Tomorrow, which is the first one we're going to talk about as usual. Since that aired on Sunday. John Diggle shows up, but not as John Diggle. Because, of course, they travel through time and stuff. They go back to the Oklahoma territories in like the 1800s Old West time, and Diggle is a sheriff's deputy and one of the few honest people left in this one town that we find out about. But anyway, we're dealing right now with the team's finally back together. And I'm not going to tell you all of this. Lurch is going to be involved with this too, so don't ever hesitate to interrupt me.
It was a Wild West themed episode. And the thing that was kind of weird is, the actor playing John Diggle was in the show as that sheriff's deputy, but he wasn't Diggle, right? And even Sarah Lance called it out. She's like, dig? Like in the middle of a shootout. She's like, dig? He's like, I do dig.
Yes, I know. I love that line. And the thing is, when they talked about him cameoing in the different shows, they did say that he was in one of the shows. He was going to be an undisclosed role, and I assume this is the undisclosed role because he wasn't Diggle.
What was his character's name? Like Bass Reeves or something like that?
Something like that. I don't remember.
It's actually a really small role. He only had like 4 lines in the show, maybe.
Yeah, and he's got this big old hokey, almost villain's mustache. You could see him twirling it and going, "Mwahaha," if you wanted to. Because he's got the total cowboy bad guy. Because when they come into the town, the historical bad guy is the actual sheriff, and the wanted posters are of the historical good guy. which turns out Diggle to be the deputy of that historical good. So some of the wanted posters are Diggle, but you couldn't quite tell it was Diggle on the poster. But as soon as Sarah Lance
Yeah,
saw him, she's like,
he was,
"Dig."
he was wearing that classic cowboy western uh, robber mask,
Right,
outlaw mask.
right. And the thing is that I want to point out about this episode that a lot of people are going to hearken to, and this is another like flashback movie reference anyway, because the alien that they're dealing with, because again they're hunting another alien. The group's back together. This is the first real mission with Sarah back in the team, and they're going in to investigate. And the alien makes the whole thing, and the Western setting actually makes everybody think of a certain place called Perfection. Uh, for those who don't remember where Perfection's from, it's from a little series of movies called Tremors, where were these graboids were these giant worms that came out of the ground and attacked. And the
Yeah.
alien in this is very reminiscent of a graboid.
Oh yeah.
It's not attracted to the same things the graboids are attracted to, but it is very reminiscent of a graboid.
Yeah.
And the first thing I thought of when I saw it, I was like, holy shit, it's Tremors.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. When I saw it burst up out of the ground and eat someone, I was like, "Oh shit, we got gremlins in this show."
I was like, when's Burt Gummer going to show up?
Yeah, right.
Because Burt Gummer has hunted graboids in every continent on the planet. Because I've watched all of the Tremors movies, and that's
Have you?
another. Oh yeah, I mean, every time a new one comes out, I have to see it because
See
one,
the first.
I love Burt Gummer. I absolutely love Burt Gummer, and coincidentally, another thing about the first Tremors movie that puts it on the history for movies is it's the first acting gig that Reba McEntire had. Because Reba McEntire played Burt Gummer's wife in that first episode.
First movie?
Yeah, in the first movie, she was the wife of Burt Gummer, and they were both hardcore doomsday preppers. They believed the government was out to get him. They believed that, their right to bear arms, and they had a bunker in the middle of the desert, and they were like...
Gribble, if Dale Gribble was more of a badass.
Yeah, nobody ever thinks that the Keaton family father from the old Michael J. Fox TV show, Family Ties, would turn out to be Burt Gummer the Badass. But he was Burt Gummer the Badass, and boy, Burt Gummer is a badass. And it had other great actors in it. Kevin Bacon's in it. The guy that played Remo Williams is in it.
Yeah. It was pretty great. So our
that's kind
Legends
of
of Tomorrow has monsters it looks just like them and it eats like them, but the graboids and tremors, the tremors, they're attracted to like footsteps on the ground, motion, sounds.
Tremors.
And so,
They're attracted to tremors. They're attracted to any kind of... They have what in Dungeons and Dragons is called tremor sense. They can feel the vibrations of the movement on the land, which is why if you wanted to get away from them, you jumped on rock. It didn't transmit the sound as much.
Exactly. Plus, they didn't eat through the rock quite as much as they eat through the sand. Pop out of the sand.
Right. But these guys...
Whereas...
Well, we got to do some background first for these guys. When they first come into town, they come into the saloon. And everybody kind of gets all quiet when the newcomers come in because, strangers, we don't truck the strangers around here kind of thing. And they come in and they start, doing their standard shtick. They've been in the Wild West before. They've 2 or 3 times met Jonah Hex. In fact, I was expecting Jonah Hex to show up in this one, but he didn't. But they come and they order around, and what's her name, the student of Constantine who's learning magic, tries to get into a poker game to win some gold from a guy, and they find out that they don't. And then they find out that they don't gamble, and they spray the drink on this big burly guy, and he turns around, looks like he's going to get a fight, and then he gets this big old stupid shit-eating grin on his face. Says, "Oh, that's fine." And then they got this hokey freaking Western crooner that starts singing about what's happening, like freaking.
Yeah.
Like
he's like narrating everything in song.
He's like the bard from Monty Python and the Holy Grail. He is brave, Sir Robin. You know, this guy starts narrating shit, and you're like, am I in an Animaniacs episode? What the fuck? And he starts doing that, and they find out that their drinks are freaking root beer because they don't even serve alcohol.
Yeah. And they have like 10 rules plastered up on the wall. It's like, no spitting, no swearing, no fighting, no gambling.
Yeah. And they're like,
tobacco.
How do
like, how is this a saloon with all these rules?
How do you enforce that in the Wild West? I mean, goddamn. And we find out later, this is why we did this build-up, because you find out that what attracts the trimmer beasts, I'm still going to call them trimmer beasts or graboids, what attracts them is rage, negative rage emotions. And so whenever somebody starts getting into a fight, that's when the trimmer wants to show up. And that's when the bad/good guy sheriff shows up, is when the first trimmer shows up. You know, when he, kind of encourages them to leave town, to be passing through. Then the trimmer shows up because it was kind of sort of a standoff going on. And he has this whistle, like a dog whistle kind of thing around his neck that calls the trimmer beast off.
Yeah.
Now,
and the first one shows up because the demon girl, or the girl that lived in hell and was studying magic under Constantine, she is trying to get her hands on some gold, and there's a guy there that has gold, and she's trying to get the gold from him, and he gets angry because he's really defensive of his gold.
And he won't play poker for it. And, of course, there's no gambling. And she's, like, all volatile, and, of course, there's also the girl with the alien radar in her head. And since both of them were volatile, they're sent back to the ship. Now, Rory sleeps through this episode.
Yeah, literally.
Literally sleeps through the episode. But these two get sent back to the ship because they're a little too volatile, and that's not what they need right now. They need a classic mission.
Didn't sleep through the episode. The episode ended very quickly and very badly for the Legends.
Right? But anyway, they get sent back to the ship, but of course, being the good little legends that they are, they of course absolutely ignored Sarah and left the ship, because if she wasn't going to get the gold off of him, she was going to go find that goddamn gold and get it herself. And the alien radar chick followed her along, bugging the shit out of her. But eventually they kind of get some kind of bond going on. And they even teach each other a little bit more about each other, which is constantly the thing with the Legends anyway. But they do get the alien
There's even a joke early on where Steel is like, okay, you two aren't getting along, so we're going to pair the two of you up for this mission. So by the end of the mission, you'll have some sort of a bonding moment and we'll be friends.
And it actually works.
Yeah.
Because they've done this a few times now. But anyway, they do end up calling for a showdown once they find out about the worm. And they're going to try to take the whistle off of the sheriff. So Sarah basically picks a fight with him and calls him out for a standard kind of showdown in the middle of town. And they do the 10 paces in turn, and he shoots, and Sarah just lets him hit her. And he gets her right in the middle of the forehead. and she falls to the ground, and Ava's like distraught, and then the wound
Okay.
closes up.
Sarah didn't let him shoot her. He turned faster than 10 paces. I think he turned on the 9th pace.
No,
8th or 9th pace.
I rewatched it because I thought that originally too, but no, she turned around and just stood there.
Afterwards, like she got shot in the back of the head first. Then after it healed, she turned and faced him and let him shoot her several more times before she shot back.
And it still ripped Ava apart, even though she saw that she healed. And this is the first time the rest of the legends, except Gary, got to realize that Sarah wasn't the Sarah they remembered because she had been cloned and her DNA combined with the aliens like Gary, and to give her nearly instantaneous Wolverine-like healing.
Yeah.
Except it doesn't push the bullet out, which I thought would have been cool. I always like those scenes. But the
bullet wasn't in her head anymore. The bullet went clean through. Like you could see the daylight through her head.
I know, but it would have been cool to see a bullet be popped out. I always like those scenes. Anyway, so she ends up beating him. But when she goes to grab the whistle, the one barmaid that Steele has been flirting with. No, not Steele. Rod has been flirting with. Grabs the whistle. Bayrod, yeah. Had been flirting with. Grabs the whistle and refuses to give it up because, they're not giving up their worm. They like their alien. They don't want to get rid of it. And this confuses everybody. So then they start getting shot at, and they all go hold up in the saloon. And basically, it's kind of a standoff. And the tempers are rising in the saloon. And finally, and I don't actually think it really pissed him off as much as he was playing it off, but Steele lost his shit.
Yeah.
He says, I'm tired of being the guy but I think he really was going out so that he could be the decoy. Because I thought he was like, you know what? I'll just turn to Steele and the guy can't digest me anyway.
Yeah.
That's what's going through his head.
He was using some of his real frustrations to help him with his source to do it, but his real purpose was to deliberately draw it out to him because he's the only person out of the whole group that would survive it trying to eat him.
Right, and he knew that, and because he's one of the most altruistic members of the group anyway, he is like the heart and conscience of the group. So he did that, and he only allowed his frustration to because he needed the frustration to draw the worm. Because without the frustration, he wouldn't have drawn the worm, which would have made it useless. He couldn't fake that, so he had to let that frustration out. But in actuality, he did it on purpose. But while they're doing this, we cut back to the other two girls, and they're in the woods, and they find the gold. And they do end up having to stop one of the locals. But they realize that the worm is basically shitting out the gold.
Yeah.
So he shits gold. So that's why that's why the town don't want to get rid of the worm, because the worm made the town a boomtown. And that's when they meet up with Diggle.
They're willing to play super nice and not fight or anything else if it means keep the monster that shits gold around.
Yep. And so they became a boomtown, and they weren't going to give up their boomtown status for nobody because they like their gold. So, but they did end up killing the worm. But the girls, they meet Diggle out there and stuff, and they bring him back to town when they realize what's going on, and they see the worm leave. They say, oh shit, he's after somebody in town again. We better get going. So they head back to town and take Diggle, and Diggle's like, I know a shortcut, let's go. And they make it back to town, and then Sarah sees Diggle, and first thing out of her mouth is, dig! And you're like,
Yeah.
yeah, he says, yeah, I do dig. And then I was like, and that's when some people who didn't get a really good look at him took a second look and they're like, wait, without the cheesy mustache, God damn, that's John Diggle. uh,
Yeah.
and then they did everything. They basically in the episode they come back. Now another weird thing about the episode is Sarah doesn't want to eat any food, but she's drinking these milkshakes with cherries on top, like they're going out of style. Like there's something to do with cherries and milkshakes. But Sarah has gone through a lot of
You
flavor
gotta,
milkshakes.
you gotta pardon me rubbing my eyes. Allergies are getting me real bad today.
The pollen count's really high up there. Um,
Yeah.
and we're right at 10 o'clock. So, actually, we're
10-20.
10:20 already. So let me hurry this along. We only have like really one other update to do.
Yeah.
No, two. We got the Flash and Loki. So just to speed it along, they end the episode and the crooner is actually singing about everything going on. And at the very tail end of it, they they come in and it's like, I told you can't keep the crooning narrator.
Yeah. Yeah, because the singer is on the ship at the end of the show. No, 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 singing
Yeah.
about how things are. Sarah's like, we
Yes.
cannot keep this narrating around.
Right. And that's just, because as me and Lurch have said several times throughout the time we've been doing this, the best part about the Legends is it's all about quirky humor. It doesn't take itself too seriously. And
Yeah.
this episode really played up to that.
Yeah.
Now, the Flash this week, Godspeed starts showing up. And first off, it starts the episode. Flash has a dream. You don't realize it's a dream that he sees Nora, which, for those who don't remember, Nora is his daughter from the future.
Yeah, it's important to point out which Nora, because Nora is the name of his mom, the name of his daughter, and the
And
name of the Speed Force when it's taking on the humanoid form.
right. In this case, this Nora is his daughter. And she's there. And then he wakes up and he
So,
calls to
the
Iris.
the adult version of his daughter who doesn't yet exist.
Right. And he calls to Iris and says, I think we're pregnant. He thinks it's kind of like a premonition dream. And he's
Yeah.
had kind of things like that before, so who knows? And he knows that because of the various things that have been going on, a regular pregnancy test won't work on Iris because of all the different factors that have been involved with her body, and of course his speed metabolism and everything else. So he arranges to do a piss test. Iris stays in her room through the whole episode, so we never see Iris the whole episode.
Yeah.
Barry takes his specimen to the lab, actually driving a car for once, which totally throws off Chester. It's like, wait, you drove? Wait, is there a Flashmobile? Is it? No, I'm just. Every once in a while, I got to drive a car.
A Flashmobile would be the most pointless vehicle in superhero history.
Right? Unless he could touch it, use the Speed Force, and then carry all of his passengers along at that speed. But otherwise, it would be very useless. It'd be better for like a time travel vehicle. But anyway, then they get an alert from the satellites. There's a couple of Godspeeds out there. Well, first there's one Godspeed, then there's suddenly two. Well, there's two speed-related villains, and there's like, oh, Godspeed clones, obviously. And the Godspeed clones have been trying to drain his speed force off of him. But before he gets a chance to respond, they disappear. So they are planning things. Now, while this is happening, Allegra's cousin, I think she is.
Yes.
Is they find out that the mask that she's got and everything is involved with the experimentation that had been done to her. And because the guy that had originally built it was dead, it eventually was going to break down, and Katie would not keep being able to fix it. So really, she needed to have a surgery done on her throat in order to make her be able to survive without the stupid mask. But of course, she didn't want to do it because she didn't trust anybody. Because last time she was under the knife for anybody, she got this. Even though Frost is like, or not Frost, but Allegra's like, no, trust me, I know her. You can trust her. But eventually they talk her into it. So during most of the episode, Allegra and Joe's wife are mostly in with Katie as she's
Landon. Yeah, why can't I remember Joe's wife's name?
Sometimes I can. Sometimes I can. Cecile.
Cecile, yeah.
Cecile.
She's
Anyway, although she is supposed to do a regular every week Tuesday lunch date with Barry, and she kind of figures out that Barry and Iris might be pregnant. Partly because of her psychic twinkle, as Clyde always calls it. And anyway, so we do see her outside of that, but otherwise, most of the time, we see her in there with Allegra during the surgery, and they start doing the surgery. Now, Barry shows up the next time that the bad guys show up, and then as soon as he's doing it, you hear the speak of the Godspeed, and of course, it's kind of like a modem tone.
oh god, yeah.
And Chester Software, yeah, and Chester Software deciphers it and says, it's basically he's here, and it's like a trap, and he realized that. And so Barry gets running just as freaking 6 Godspeeds all show up and start chasing around the city with, Barry just a little bit ahead of them. And then he's telling Chester to activate the Guardian protocol on Star Labs. And Chester's like, you'll be locked out too. He says, don't worry about it, do it. And just before the shield falls down all the way to seal with the ground, Barry slips underneath it. So the Godspeeds are held out by the shield, but then they start speed hitting the shield and start breaking it down a little bit at a time. Now, while this is going on, Barry's like, okay, we're going to have to evacuate Star Labs. And they're like, no, we can't do that because Katie's in the middle of the surgery, and if she stops, the girl dies. And it just so happens that Frost's paramour, the guy that escaped from Iron Heights, who has these bracelets that allows him to basically shoot Frost similar to Frost, but he's a bad guy who made a deal for state's evidence, so he didn't have to stay in Iron Heights anymore. He got beat up at a bar, partly because he didn't have his bracelets, so he couldn't use his powers really, because his bracelets like stabilize him or something. But he got beat up, and Frost showed up before they totally killed him.
I don't think he has powers. I think those bracelets he invented to give him to mimic Frost powers.
I don't remember.
If I remember right.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
But it's either that or they stabilize. It's one or the other. But anyway, Frost shows up, drives the guys that are beaten up away, but he's got a really bad cut that needs stitches or he's going to bleed out. And she starts, well, I got to get you to this hospital. I don't think they like me very much there. I blew up their EKG machine. Okay, well, we got to get you to this hospital. No, they don't like me there because I did this. It's okay, there's this really shady veterinarian. It's, oh, yeah, Dr. So-and-so. Yeah, he hates my guts. He has burned really a lot of bridges. He has burned a lot of bridges. She's like, I don't believe I'm doing this. I'm going to take you to Star Labs, and Katie can fix you.
Yeah.
So he takes him to Star Labs, and gets Katie to stitch him up, and then she goes to go work on Allegra's cousin. So he is there in the med bay of Star Labs. So when all hell breaks loose, he says, "Here, let me help," and she don't trust him, so she says no, locks him in the med bay.
I
But
think
then
it's really the med. That's like their little restaurant area.
it's
Little,
something.
yeah.
Until I
Because
know the
Caitlin's in the med bay with the throat surgery.
well, she's in the surgery theater, which is often separate from the
Yeah.
regular medical area. But anyway, she locks him in there and then goes, and then eventually they figure out that they need to do a delaying tactic and stuff because these Godspeeds are going to wear down the shield and get in. And Chester gets this idea to reroute the sound that they make through all the speakers in Central City to confuse them so they couldn't coordinate and basically to do it at such a decibel level that they basically kind of stunned them partly. But he needed about
Yeah.
5 minutes to set it up. And in order to help with that, Frost went to him, got him to promise to help. He wouldn't promise to be a good guy because he said, let's face it, I'm not a good guy. Don't ask me to be what I'm not. But he did agree to help because his life is in danger too. And so she gave him his wristbands back. And he helped when the Godspeeds do break in because they switch gears from trying to break the shield down to absorbing the energy of the shield like they were going to absorb the speed force off Barry, which breaks the shield down a lot sooner. Chester gets sent to the Gideon chamber, which Cisco changed to a panic room before he left under Barry's request. And there he ends up getting Gideon to route the file through all the speakers in Star Labs, which helped out until one of the Godspeeds broke into the chamber and broke Gideon. We don't know what the permutations of that's going to end up being because Gideon's been a major tool for a long time. But anyway, they end up having their battle, and then finally Barry goes running, and they're chasing after him. And then as he stops to finally confront them and stuff, and they're getting ready to kick Barry's ass, another 6 Godspeeds show up and start attacking the 6 Godspeeds that he was fighting with. So it's like there's an internal strife struggle between the Godspeeds going on.
Yeah, and suddenly it looked like I was watching a Power Rangers episode.
It looked like a bunch of putties, didn't it?
Yeah.
I swear it did. Because the Godspeeds in that white armor don't look much different from putties. The original putties.
And then you got 12 of them fighting each other, 6 versus 6,
right?
Throwing lightning and hitting at super speed, and I was watching it going, "What the hell?"
So,
and then Barry Allen's like, "What the hell?"
and so that's basically how we finished that episode. So we got more coming next week. We don't know what all is going to go on. Now let's get to the creme de la creme, the thing that we've been waiting on. And oh my God, did a lot happen this week. Loki.
Yeah.
And
Loki.
And we already said spoilers, but I'm going to reiterate it here because oh my God, freaking spoilers.
Yeah.
First off, big spoiler. There is an after credit scene. As Philip was quick to post, like right after he watched it, I think, on Facebook.
Yeah.
And I had already watched it because I always, if it's a Marvel production, as soon as we get to the end, I drag the thing slowly just to make sure there's no end credit scene. It's going like 2.5 speed, but that way I still see if there's an end of credit scene. And there is an end of credit scene, so we'll get to that. When we last left our intrepid Lokis, or Loki and Sylvie, we'll call them, they were in the apocalypse event, there's all these meteors falling down on this moon that's about to collide with the planet, and there's basically certain death. They can't get out. They don't have any way out. Their device to create time doors is broken. The arc is broken. They're pretty much up shit creek without a paddle.
Yeah.
Then we go back to the Time Bureau, and in the Time Bureau, we see that they're monitoring the sacred timeline, and then suddenly this tangent offshoot timeline shoots like straight up on the monitor. So it's like some
Yeah.
major offshoot event is happening, and it's happening on this moon that's an apocalypse event. How the fuck is this happening? Because apocalypse events are supposed to be safe from messing with the timeline. So,
and on top of that, they're like, "This is." Have you ever seen a Nexus event line that looks anything like that? No.
and the name of the episode is Nexus Event.
Yeah.
And so two time doors open up side by side, and out pops Morbius and that one black enforcer chick in their forces, and they grab the Loki and Sylvie and drag him through the doorway. And Sylvie's yelling her threat. She's got like 6 or 8 guards on her, plus the black girl leading them, and they're leading off one way. And Loki's got 2 guards on him and Mobius, and they're going one way. And he's like, "And I should have as many guards as her. This is insulting."
Yeah. What do you? Why do I only have 2 and she has 6?
Right? And so they take and Mobius takes Loki and shoots him into a time gate that basically puts him in a rerun with Lady Sif, which we haven't seen since an episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. where she guest starred. But she's been pretty much gone from the cinematic universe, except for the Agents
and
of S.H.I.E.L.D. episode.
This is why I mentioned Jamie Alexander was going to get brought up again, because she's been doing that show Blind Spot for a while. But
Right.
It was nice to see her back as Lady Sif for an episode.
Right, and she kept doing this one rerun where she kicks freaking Loki in the balls.
Yeah, she punches him in the face, kicks him in the balls
and
for cutting her hair. She stopped or something.
And tells him he'll always be alone. Then she leaves the scene and then comes back on the scene and does it over and over again. So Loki has to relive this like multiple times. Really frustrating for Loki.
Yeah.
Mobius goes and checks with the one judge chick from the time. I hate using the word chick because it seems a little bit sexist, but I'm so indoctrinated to use it over the years that it's just hard. This one judge lady, and he asks about C20, which is the agent that Sylvie had kidnapped in the earlier episode. And she tells Loki that she died.
She tells Owen Wilson, Mobius.
Mobius.
She tells Mobius that he died.
Not Loki, Mobius. That she died. Mobius is like, well, when I last saw her, she was fine. She was a little, confused, but she was fine. He says, no, she degenerated real fast and she died. Basically, like, get off the subject. Partly because just before Loki went into this gate, he told Mobius that he had been lied to.
Yeah, the TVA is lying to all of you.
He hadn't told him how the lie was because Mobius didn't wait at that point. But then Mobius leaves the judge's chambers, goes back to interrogate Loki. And he pulls Loki out of that scene just as Loki's about to kind of break the scene and actually make peace with Sif. But anyway, he pulls Loki out of the scene, and he interviews Loki, and Loki tells him that you're a variant. You weren't created by the Time Bureau. he also convinces Mobius that he was the brains behind everything, not Sylvie. That Sylvie
Well,
was.
he says that. I don't think Mobius actually believed him on that.
I don't think he 100% believed him either. He's like figuring, considering the source. Of course, Loki's going to say that. If anything, they were more like equal partners at most. And how can you be truly an equal partner with a Loki? Even another
Yeah.
Loki can't be equal. But Mobius starts to suspect that they had like a love connection, which is probably what was causing the major Nexus event. Then we break over to Sylvie and the one enforcement agent.
It was hilarious when Owen Wilson's putting this together. He's like, wait a second. Did you fall in love with the other Loki variant? You narcissistic, egotistical,
Fall in
idiot or
love with
whatever.
yourself,
You can't fall in love with anyone except for another of yourself.
right? And then they go to Sylvie, and she's being interrogated, and she tells Sylvie tells the one enforcement lady, I can't ever think of the actress's name, and I don't remember what the character's name is, so I just think of her as the enforcement lady. Or for purely identification purposes, the black enforcement lady.
And they call her like B-52 or something.
Yeah, it's some number designation, because
Yeah.
that's how they do the enforcement people. And she tells her that she's a variant, and that C20, she had accessed her memories, and that she was a variant, and that she had taken her back in her memories to when she was from Earth, and she had actually lived and loved margaritas and been in bars and all this stuff. And this got the wheels spinning in the enforcement officer's brain, and so she goes and like talks to the judge and stuff too, and hears that basically C20's gone. And of course, her and C20 were like friends. And so she comes back, and she comes into the little pocket dimension that Sylvie had been banished to, and brought her out, talked to her, and asked Sylvie to actually access her memories. So Sylvie does.
Yeah. And I
And
gotta say, that was a really great performance of watching her. I thought we were going to go back into her head, or going to go into her head, see her memories. We just get to see her face as she's reacting to remembering who she used to be.
But her facial
And
expressions were so emotive that you could
yeah,
tell she was a good actress.
yeah, that's what I was getting at. Is like you get to see her expression as she's realizing, and you see like that mind of that face expression of remembrance and joy and happiness, and
And
then
then horror
then
realization.
yeah, and then the sorrow as she then changes to crying.
Right.
Oh man,
And then,
like that performance alone was very impressive. You know?
so anyway, Mobius puts Loki back in the time loop with Sif again, just to see more of Sif, because we can't get enough of Sif.
Yeah.
Even though she's doing the same role over and over again. It's just nice to see her. And he goes and talks to the judge, and he tries to get her to admit that he's her favorite, and kind of sort of does. That she's protecting him, and he gives her the sword that they took off of Sylvie to be the new souvenir, and gets her to turn around to go put it on her wall to find a place for it. As he does that, he swaps their little portal device with hers, because among other things, it's also got like a recording function. And when he goes back, he plays the recording function and sees her interrogating C20 and figures out that what Loki said was actually true. So now he rescues Loki.
it's a video. It's basically a video of C20 talking about how she's like, "No, we weren't created by the TVA. We were, and we are variants just like they are, and
he
they
stole
wiped our
us.
memories. They stole us, wiped our memories, and destroyed our worlds."
Right.
And then the lady who's in charge shows up on the footage or whatever as the image freezes or whatever, as she's like, turn this off, this is over now or something like that.
And she looks right at the camera. And
Yeah.
so there's no denying she's there. And she knows. So Mobius cannot even deny it. So he goes to pick up Loki and says, okay, you're right. And then he goes to bring him back to the Time Authority. But just as they step through the time door, here she comes, and he says, oh, and I think you got some of mine. He says, oh, yeah, look, I must have picked up yours by mistake. He played it off great. I must have picked up yours by mistake. Here you go. And then she basically disintegrates Mobius. Now, I personally think Mobius isn't gone. I have a feeling that at some point in this,
Yeah.
Mobius was an illusion created by Loki. Either that, or Loki's going to go back in time with one of the devices and pull a previous Mobius in.
We're not sure exactly what those sticks do, but I get the feeling that what those sticks actually do is instead of erasing you, I think maybe it portals you into a Armageddon so that you die. Or into an alternate dimension where you will die or something like that when you get pruned.
Right.
But we're not sure. We don't know exactly how those sticks exactly work. But anyway, since everything they do is based on time, I'm guessing that this has something to do. Those sticks, what those sticks actually do to you, have something to do with time. That can then be further.
But we know there's 2 more episodes in the series, and there ain't no way they're going to do the last 2 episodes without any Mobius. Mobius is too important of a character to not be in the last 2 episodes of the show. I think, anyway.
Yeah, we got to get Mobius on a jet ski.
Right. And the one enforcement agent eventually gets pruned too. But then she does end up taking Sylvie and Loki before the Time Lords, who confronts them.
Yeah. So we get to meet the Time Lords down on the basement floor or whatever the fucking floor they're actually on in that elevator.
Basement floor, top floor, whichever floor it is.
Yeah.
We show up at the Time Lords, and they basically talk to Loki, and Sylvie kind of talk down to him and stuff. And then Loki is surprised, and he pops off the one enforcer shows up, deactivates the collars. She gets pruned. Sylvie and Loki fight everybody. There's a big battle between Sylvie and the judge. And they're both using the pruning sticks because Sylvie had to throw the sword to Loki to give him help because he didn't have his twin daggers that he usually fights with. And but anyway, they end up beating everybody, and they knock the head off of one of the timekeepers. And it turns out that the timekeepers are androids.
Yeah.
Or robots or synths.
Some kind of robotic thing.
Artificial life.
The others didn't really. Yeah, they cut the head off of one. The other 2 didn't really seem to respond to it. And, they never got out of those chairs, so they could have just been like mechanical puppets, basically.
They could just be an interface, yeah.
Yeah. They could have just been mechanical puppets with some Wizard of Oz behind the curtain somewhere, controlling them.
They're animatronics, man. That's all they are.
Yeah.
It's like freaking Jim Henson Studios, just a bunch of animatronics. Anyway, that's
Yeah.
it. Jim Henson's really the Time Lord.
So
But
so it gets that quote unquote Time Lord or whatever gets his head chopped off, and all sparky, and the judge woman isn't even phased by it.
it's like
You
she
know?
knew.
Yeah, she knew that they were machinations. And is not even seems to be concerned about the head getting chopped off. She's just determined to prune both of these two variant Lokis.
Yeah. Anyway, then Loki and Sylvie portal away, and then we basically end the episode. And then right at the end of the credits, right at the
They
end of
don't.
that
They
picture,
don't portal away. They don't portal away. They're still down in that basement area,
well,
and Loki's trying to say to Sylvie that I mean, we assume he's trying to say that he thinks he loves her, right? But he's having a hard time getting the words out. Then
right.
suddenly he gets pruned, and that judge is like gotten him from behind with one of the pruning sticks, and seemingly Loki is killed from there, or whatever happens whenever they get disintegrated by those prune sticks.
And that supports your theory, because the next thing we see right after the first part of the credits, the pictorial part of the credits, when they're showing all the desks of the people at the time at the TVA,
Yeah.
then they cut to a scene where Loki shows up, and he looks up, and here's this old guy, this burly guy, and this thin kind of tricky guy, but they're all kind of wearing Loki
Yeah.
crowns. So it's like
And
three Loki variants.
yeah. Maybe 4, because there's an alligator that the kid Loki is holding that's wearing a little Loki helmet too.
Yeah, and since Loki's a known shapeshifter as well as everything else. Yeah, and the thing is, yeah, one is like a total like Viking warrior type, which you don't see as Loki in that persona, because
Yeah.
Loki is
He's got like a golden hammer.
He looks more like his brother Thor than he should, basically. And then there's another one that looks more like a different, sinister version of Loki. Very much the evil genius kind, but with
there's
very much big swooping horns on his Loki.
I was gonna say the old man looking Loki, is straight up wearing the outfit of the original art designs of the old cartoon Loki or the old comic book Lokis.
Right. Then there's the kid, and like you said, there's also the gator, which I think I missed, and stuff. So
Yeah.
of course that lends credence to the one theory that the pruning sticks don't exactly get rid of you, but it also shows us 3 more at least 3, possibly 4, and possibly more, because they might take him to a whole camp full of alternate Lokis, because if there's one character in all of the Sacred Timeline that's going to keep breaking off variants, it's Loki.
Yeah, which they mentioned before, that Loki is the variant that they've had to prune the most versions of.
Right. And so if they're all camped out together and they work together, ooh, that's scary.
And they're in the midst of a destroyed city that I believe is a destroyed New York, with I think the building on the right that's destroyed is a busted up Avengers Tower. And so I think this is a variant universe where maybe the Chitauri's destroyed they
New won York the Battle of New York. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Chitauri won the Battle of New York there. Although I don't know if you'd want to send a bunch of Lokis to a world where Loki won a battle.
Well, maybe he's stranded. Maybe he's stranded on that planet now, stranded in that world.
Yeah, but if
maybe
I don't know if I'd want to send him there, because if there's one place in the entire multiverse that he might be able to find an ally to help overthrow somebody, it would be a world where he won and he's in charge.
Yeah.
So, and it looks like, but we could have end up with a whole camp full of freaking Lokis by the end of the series.
Yeah.
So it's
A
getting,
legion of Lokis, if you will.
yeah, the Legion of Extraordinary Lokis. Oh my God. And their one girl member, Sylvie.
Yeah.
But so that's where we left off. We've got 2 little episodes left to go, guys. I mean, we're just hair's breadth away from the end of the Loki series. And then we
Yeah.
have a wait before anything new really comes out. Now, there are other offerings on Disney Plus. I will admit, I started watching the Mysterious Benedict Society. The first 2 episodes of that dropped, and I watched those today. It's actually interesting, and I recommend it. Um, so there are other things to watch on Disney Plus. If you're a fan of a lot of the more classic cartoon stuff, you got access to a whole bunch. If you want to rewatch all the different like cinematic universe movies, most of them are on Disney Plus right now, and a couple of them that aren't are generally just waiting for the contract with other streaming services to end before they come on. So there's more stuff to watch on Disney Plus than there was. If you're a Mighty Duck fan, there's the Mighty Duck series. If you want to get into depth with the Star Wars series, I kind of got burned out on the series ones. Mandalorian was okay. First season, I couldn't really get into the second season. So to me, the Star Wars seasons, serials are not as much to me as the movies are. But if you're into those, that's fine. If after about a month, the premiere access movies do become free, so you can now go and watch Revive the Dragon without paying the $30. And I guess a month or so after Black Widow shows up, it'll become free on that streaming service before anybody else. So if you're willing to wait 30 to 60 days, you can watch those things on Disney Plus. So that's always an option too. But we've got quite a bit of a wait before the next thing that comes out for live action on Disney Plus. And I'm not sure what the absolute next one is because there's a
Yeah.
couple of ones scheduled. There's
Yeah.
She-Hulk
We
and
have
Hawkeye.
scheduled in the summer, which they haven't given an exact release date yet, but in the summer we're supposed to get the animated series of What If.
Right, that's
And
the animated.
yeah, and then late
Mm.
2021 is supposed to be Hawkeye.
And
And
then
then
She-Hulk in
also
2022.
yeah, and also 2021 Miss Marvel.
Okay, so the Miss Marvel TV series, right? Which I'm
Yes,
not
yes.
sure if that is supposed to be an animated or live.
It's live.
Live, okay. So
Yeah.
there are some things to get you to go ahead and keep the $8 a month Disney Plus, or you could do like I like to do and cancel Disney Plus after Loki's over with, and start it up again when something you want to watch regularly comes back on, because that's the more cost-effective way to do it. I mean, especially since there's so many other streaming services out there that you got to balance your stuff with. Like, I still say the best one on the market right now is HBO Max, because among other things, when it goes
So
from
yeah.
free to HBO Max, it's free. It is the most expensive one though.
Yeah. We do have a bunch of other Marvel shows in the works, but we don't have even an estimated date for She-Hulk, Moon Knight, Secret Invasion, Ironheart, Armor Wars, I Am Groot.
Yeah, there's so much in
None
the
of those
works.
those all say to be determined.
Not to mention the movies that are coming out in Phase 4 and then Phase 5.
Yeah, yeah.
So we got Black Widow,
Yeah.
we know. After Black
Black
Widow, we
Widow,
got Shang-Chi and the
yeah.
Legend of the Ten Rings.
Which, I don't know if you saw the newest trailer. The newest trailer for Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings included
Absolutely.
Wong and Abomination fighting each other.
Yeah, I did see that. So we've got those to look forward to. After that, it's Doctor Strange into the Multiverse.
Eternals before Doctor
Oh
Strange.
wait, you're right. Eternals, then Doctor Strange in the Multiverse, then Spider-Man's new one.
And actually, Spider-Man's going to be before Doctor Strange as well.
Is it?
Spider-Man's in December.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
Eternals in November, Spider-Man December, Shang-Chi in September.
Speaking of other movies that are coming up, not Marvel related, but from our childhood, from cartoons and stuff. In September, we get a live action Clifford the Big Red Dog. And I
What?
saw and I saw the first preview for it, and it is cute as hell. The little girl gets like bullied in school, and she finds this red puppy, and I mean he's red, and he's just a normal puppy, and she's like, "How big is he gonna get?" And this one old guy says, "Well, that just depends on how much you love him." And she's like, "I want you
Oh
big
boy.
so you can stop all the bullies," and the tear drops down and hits him. And then the next morning she wakes up, and you got Clifford the dinosaur kin. She loved him a lot, I guess,
Yeah.
because he got enormous.
That's
And
Clifford. He's
and
like the
so
size of a house,
he's
normally in
not
the books.
he's not quite to the house size yet, but still, he's bigger than a freaking Great Dane by a lot. Um, he's probably 10 feet or so at the withers. So
Wow.
at the shoulder. So that's a big red dog. And that's
Yeah.
just his first day out of being a puppy. So he can keep growing as a series if they do another movie
It's
or as this movie even progresses. So that's another one
there's
to
gonna be
look
some
forward to.
big dog poops.
Space Jam comes out this coming month. Because tomorrow's the 1st. So
Yeah.
basically, in July we get Space Jams too. So we've got a lot of Space Jams. I did hear from Space Jams that a couple of interesting things. The big one for me was the voice of Speedy Gonzalez is supposed to be voiced by Gabriel Iglesias, Fluffy.
Oh yeah.
Yes,
Nice.
that's an interesting little tidbit. And although it's not going to be a huge role, Michael Jordan is supposed to cameo in the movie somewhere. They haven't revealed where, but Michael Jordan will be in, so it will kind of help link the first movie to the second movie. Because, of course, the first movie was about Michael Jordan, and the second movie centers around LeBron James, who is currently the bigwig in the basketball universe.
Yeah.
So,
You know you're a big shot basketball player when you make it to the Space Jam.
that's right. That's how you know you. That's like when you know in the music industry, you know you're good when Weird Al parodies you.
Yeah.
That's how you know you've arrived. Weird Al parodies you, or you're a basketball player who stars in Space Jam.
Weird Al shows up to your recording studio. Your savior has arrived.
That's right. Then you know that you've arrived. So, we got a lot to look forward to in movies and everything. Then we've got stuff that's not coming to streaming services, like Fast and Furious 9, who's going to theaters but doesn't have a linked streaming service that it's connected with yet. So, because it's not a WB production, it's not a Disney production. So, it's going to go just in theaters. So, you're either going to have to go to theaters or you're going to have to wait to see the newest in the Vin Diesel blockbuster runaway train that's Fast and Furious. And there's still at least one more movie in the Fast and Furious franchise. At least one.
I heard that they've already got plans for 2 more.
Yeah. Well, not only that, but I think they've got plans for another at least 1 or 2 offshoot movies like Hobbs and Shaw. So, you never know. There's just so much going on there. Um, and we've got other movies coming out. We've got that new Ryan Reynolds one where he's basically a character in basically a video game who gets
Yeah.
told he's a character. I can't remember what the name of the movie is.
Free Guy, I think.
Something like that. So
Anyway,
that's coming out. We
we
got a lot coming out. We're already
yeah,
way over time.
I was gonna say we're past 11. I'm getting
Yeah.
hungry.
Yeah, and I got to go take a nap. I don't know if I'm going to stream tonight. My shoulder's been killing me ever since I fell about a month and a half ago. And dealing with stress and stuff has made me lock it up. And then power outages and everything else. So I haven't streamed other than this show in about a week. So I don't know if I'm streaming tonight or not. We'll see how I feel a little bit later.
Yeah.
But normally you can catch me on this channel Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturday mornings from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. Central Standard Time, where I stream Nostalgia Gaming is the name of the show. Lately, I've been streaming Progressive Server EverQuest, going back to the beginning, on the Mischief server. I also stream Old School RuneScape, and then for a non-nostalgia feel, when it's out in alpha testing, I do alpha, and then eventually we'll beta test Fractured the MMO, and occasionally I'll play something else too, like I'll go on my PlayStation and play something like Ape Escape or Space Ace or one of those. So there's various games that I'll play on there. I'll play Dark Cloud. You never know what I might play on different days when I'm just not feeling a heavy MMO. And I play several different characters on my EverQuest game. So you can catch me there. And Lurch can be caught at Left Claw Studios several times during the week, either him or his partner Angel, although Angel was moving. Did he finally finish moving and is he back on schedule?
He just closed on the house today. Just signed the paperwork to close on the house today, and is now in the process of actually moving into that house. His landlord at his old place wouldn't let him stay till the close date of his new place, and so he had like almost a month gap in between them, and so he had to like send his his family went to go stay with some other family while Angel stayed here in town, and he actually was crashing here at my place for the last few weeks.
What did he do with his furniture and
Well,
stuff?
because he had
storage?
Because he still had to work. He got a storage unit and had everything in storage.
Yeah, that sucks.
And so he put an inflatable mattress in my reading room and has been sleeping in there for the last few weeks. Tonight, him and his family are spending their first night in their new house off of, I don't remember what they're even sleeping on for tonight, because they don't have their stuff out of the storage yet. The soonest they was able to get the storage, they're going to be able to get the storage unit stuff put into their new house is going to be this weekend. And so, he's been busy with that, and then I've also been helping him with a lot of that stuff, so I've been busy helping him too, and then I've also been, my mom's had a stroke, so I've been helping her out too, so I've been really busy, so since we both had a lot on our plate that's kind of caused a lot of stress, we've taken a little bit of time off, both of us. Like, we put out a post that we were taking just a few weeks off of live streams, so we can focus on other things we have to deal with life, and then we'll be back in July.
Yeah, so life happens, people.
Yeah.
Basically, that's what we're saying is life happens. I get injured. My health is poor, so there's a lot of times that I'm in too much pain, or because I have chronic insomnia and stuff. I'm not sleeping, and the pain doesn't help.
Yeah.
If I am getting a chance to sleep, I'll stay sleeping instead of coming out to stream, and I can't be blamed for that because I got to look out for my health first. So the only show that's 100% I try to make, unless it's something like internet or power outage or something of that nature, this show here we'll try to make it every week. Me and Lurch
Yeah.
are here just about every week. Greg is here every
Yeah.
week except for the week he's at Holdfast or has something else going on like that. Occasionally Lurch might, because he's on call sometimes, might have to do work. But this is the one show we try to make because this is our chance to touch base with you guys. So catch us here next week at 8 o'clock. Barring complications, that we never know what might happen. Weather's been crazy lately with heat, then rain, then heat, and the heat has been outrageous. It's been
Oh
blowing.
God.
It's been blowing transformers. It's been causing all
Yeah.
kinds of problems in different areas.
So we had a fire. So in the last week and a half, the power at my house has gone out at least 3 times, and one of them was a car wreck.
In the last like 3 weeks, ours has gone out like at least 3 times too. 4
Yeah.
if you count
One was
today.
One was a car crash that hit a pole, or whatever, that knocked out our power for a few hours, and then there was one that City Utilities called me and told me that the outage was caused by a fire on a pole, but they didn't say what caused the fire. But one of my neighbors said that, because I have a neighbor that lives right at the intersection where City Utilities told me the fire was, and he told me that it was a squirrel got electrocuted and burst into flames and damaged the pole.
He arced.
I was like, what?
The squirrel.
And then the third one, I never got any information on. I have no idea what caused the third one.
Well, I know we've blown a transformer here twice, and then we've had 2 scheduled outages to fix that. So that's actually 4 in the last 3 weeks. Plus, we had one more that had to do with the damaged power pole or something. So in the last 3 weeks, we've actually lost power 5 times. Of those, only 2 were scheduled to fix the others.
Yeah.
So it was 3 unscheduled power losses plus 2 scheduled to fix what was going on. And so it's terrible. So there's lots of stress in our lives. We're normal everyday human beings. We don't have the budget that Hollywood does to just go to like an alternate studio and keep going. So
Yeah.
if anything happens, we try to let you know as soon as we can. We'll let you know on Facebook. We'll let you know other places as best we can, because we can always get to Facebook via our cell phones if we need to.
Yep, indeed.
But otherwise, we'll catch you here next week at 8 o'clock. Next week should be me, Lurch, and Greg, because it's not the third Wednesday. It'll be the first Wednesday of the month. And as we said earlier, we will not have Superman and Lois again next week because it doesn't come till the week after. But we will have another Legend of Tomorrow, more Flash, and everything, and the semi-finale for Loki for the season. And then the following week, oh my God, is it going to be an exciting week, because we'll have the Lois and Clark, or the Superman and Lois continuation that everybody's like on pins and needles waiting for, and the finale of Loki at the same time. So stay tuned. We got a lot coming up, and that's not to mention what we'll have to talk about in new games of different platforms and books and movies and stuff like that. So just catch us here. Follow us. Subscribe if you can. If you can't, that's completely understandable. But remember, if you're an Amazon Prime member, you do get 1 free subscription every month, and you can change it from month to month. So just to show a channel that you really enjoy their content, you can always subscribe. And as always, my channel is dedicated to Extra Life, which is part of the Children's Miracle Network, helping hospital-bound kids and kids with long-term conditions, as well as our entire group, the Collective Endeavors, is dedicated to furthering the education behind all these nerdy hobbies. And so between those 2 causes, by supporting us, you're supporting those causes. We don't make a profit for this. I don't get paid anything. Lurch doesn't get paid anything. And Greg doesn't get paid anything. In fact, throughout the year, putting on our convention and stuff, we actually end up shelling a bunch of our own money to make sure stuff happens. So it's absolutely the opposite. No money is had in the production of this stuff. So we hope you enjoy our content. There's no obligation or anything. But see you next week, guys.
See ya. Bye.
Bye-bye.